Hello, hello. Are we live here yet, or I'm just trying to see. Okay, it looks like we are. Okay. Uh yeah. Um I was hoping that Jess would join me because we had some rather interesting things that were said in the Nate Eaton interview, but then I was watching another one uh, that just aired. Um, and it's like it has so much more in it than the Nate Eaton interview that I really wanted to go over that. And Jess hasn't responded yet. And so I'm thinking what we'll do is start by um, going over the video that I put up yesterday of the grain shed because uh, I thought that with Candice's interview that it was um, an appropriate time to release that. So let me see. Trying to remember how to get the video going again. Let's see. Oh, this is tricky. Let me see. Extra camera. Nope. Oh, I'm trying to remember how we did this last time. This is only the second time I've tried doing a live, and how are we doing out there? It looks like we've got Fly in the Wall and Tom Evans, and I'm not sure if we've got anyone else out there. Yeah. Oh, this is. Oh, let's see. Was that her? Nope, that's not her. Maybe. Okay. Oh, let's see. No, that's not it either. Obviously, I'm not new at this. Hi, Tamara. Let's see. Let's see. This is frustrating. Okay, share screen. I've got it here. So let's see. Let's see. Okay, let me see. Oh, no, that's not the right one that I want. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. I've got it figured out now. Okay, now let's get it started here. Oh, let's. Oh, nope, that's not the right tab after all. Where did it go? I think I closed it by accident. Okay, let's reload this. Okay. did I just do? Settings, camera, nope. Okay, I'm not sure what I did. And then the file disappeared. So let's see. Oh, this is not good. Present. Okay, that's. Oh, wait, I could get it from there. Okay, let's. If I can just find where the stupid tab is. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's get the sound on and. Oops. Nope, that's not it. Okay. Here we go. I think. No, it's not going. Oh, hi Malmac, hi Holly Anomaly. It's strange because I told it to share the video and I've got it rolling on one tab, but it's not showing here. So I'm not sure quite what's going on. Oh, let's try this again. Well, to stop screen. Now let's share screen. Okay. Let's see, Chrome tab. Okay. All right. It's still not going. Oh, this is.
Well, he said.
Oh, here we go.
Permission.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy that they took the place and went all through it for how long?
Can we hear it? Okay, sounds like. Okay, this is inside the grain shed, and you can see how it's not very airtight. We've got gigantic gaping holes along the base of the floor over here, where you can see daylight, and you can see how there's just rubbish all over the place. Yeah, no, he wasn't doing any spring cleaning. Okay, and in this corner over here, to the right of the door, we've got a makeshift, what do you call it? Stall for his horse, right there. And thank you, Kathleen at Lovey's mom. So yeah, apparently he made this makeshift gate on the front of the grain shed to keep his horse inside, and it got damaged. And I think I understand that Dylan damaged it putting the truck in, and so there was extra conflict because of this gate. Now let's keep in mind that
on a side note, had there been a huge hole,
let's listen.
that pile would have been huger
Yeah.
and less disruptive. Yeah. So you can imagine a 10-wheeler bobtail, which is basically like a dump truck, pulling in here to get out of the rain. That's what he did. He pulled it in, got out, Probably walked out. Jim probably came up and said, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Unlock that fucking fence."
So there aren't actually doors on this.
No, they're even in the video.
Okay.
They showed his auger actually stuck out the back
Uh-huh.
in the first videos
I see.
because the auger wouldn't fit inside. So we actually just
Uh-huh.
pulled it in, and then the auger sat out
Oh.
the back, but the grain was inside.
Okay.
But Jim's trailer, you see the still over there?
Uh-huh.
That's where his trailer sat, and it is
Over
gone.
over that steel stuff
Yep.
there. Okay. Well, let's go. I don't think I've got.
Jeffy Joe. And then that's Kurt's backhoe.
Is porta potty, was this brought in for law enforcement or?
I don't know where the pond is, but the main line runs right there. Dylan's property is that way.
That way?
Yep.
Okay,
And so
let's see.
frequently he would walk from here
Uh-huh.
to his property that way. It's just 5 miles across the desert.
And how long would it be by road?
Road, it would take him longer than actually to walk.
Okay.
But that's Kurt's backhoe that he used to drain the pond, which is over here, I'm assuming,
Okay.
because I can see the berm.
Let's see if I can pause this. It's a little hard to tell at the moment. That small hole that was in the bottom of the grain shed, there was, they had done some ground penetrating radar and found an anomaly, and so they did some digging in that spot in order to see what it was, and obviously it wasn't very significant because it was only like 12 to 18 inches deep. So, and you can see just how vast the landscape is. I learned a few things from reviewing this footage after being out there in the environment, and
Because I can't start your fucking backhoe.
know a few things to do better next time.
Well, you left it
But
out
this-
here
this,
fucking 4 weeks after we told
This
you
backhoe was originally out at Dylan's property,
motor, dude.
and they impounded it and processed it, and then they returned it to the grain shed instead of the farm
So
for some
this
reason.
is like, what's his name? Not Lance, but
Robert? No,
Okay.
Ty.
Ty. So he says the way you dig down 20 feet is you dig a hole and then you put your tires in the hole that you dug.
Yeah.
That's why that doesn't work, because you
got
have
those
this
sticking out.
you have this leverage point.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with that. You
Yeah.
have to build a shelf to drop the
Yeah.
backhoe down. You
Oh,
can't dig a hole for the fucking tires because you have landing gear that puts you up above
yeah.
that shit.
Well, I watch an archaeology program from Great Britain called Time Team, and they were
Mhm.
digging. They must have gone down 40 feet for.
And you have to do a
finding-
shelf. Do a
Yes,
shelf.
Exactly.
Do a shelf.
Exactly. That's what they did.
He does have an extend-a-hoe, but that only gives him another 4 feet.
Uh huh.
Fucking retarded. So there's probably nothing we can do to get you home with this, huh?
God, I had chains and saws.
The backhoe sitting there on flat tires.
No.
Yeah.
I guarantee the Twiggers have been out here the whole fucking time. I'm surprised that 49 or 4890's still fucking there.
Now,
The easiest fucking drive.
out beyond, just to the left there is where Dylan's farm is. So right there. Go 5 miles that way.
Oh.
No, the backhoe was at the farm, and it was they had Kurt drain the the pond at the property to make sure that he wasn't down there. So, they told Kurt that Florida hiker they released the backhoe. They told him that he could take it, but it's there at the grain shed, and it's got 2 flat tires, and those tires are extremely expensive, and so that's not on the table right now. And from what I see around the countryside, there's just broken down stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
Drained the pond, and then he brought it back here because the property owner wanted him to do other.
Looks like I had it mixed up there.
So that's my bad.
Now this is a little shed that Jim Brenner has some stuff in.
This has to be Jim's.
Jim's?
Spirit 12, yes, I believe that's
Inside.
the case.
And his horse that
Let's
he has.
see.
Uh-huh.
We have confirmation.
Okay.
21 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
All right, let's check out where the trailer was.
well, I don't, Kathleen at Lovey's mom, I think that he did use the shed, but not very
It's like
often.
they tipped over the burn barrel.
He really only needed it
It's like they
to
tipped
keep
over the burn
the
barrel.
the seed out of the rain so that it wouldn't start sprouting before he was ready to plant it, and there was a rainstorm due.
Jeffy Joe. This is
Um,
where Jim's camper was.
Right here? Not
Right here.
over there?
Nope, not
Okay.
over there. Right here.
Right here.
So I
You see the
recall
tire
there's a
tracks on
problem
the
with
wood?
the
Oh, okay.
This is actually where his.
So right here.
pump Spirit 12. So yeah, and the crop
got a
eventually died
Fleetwood
that
Case
he
Arrow
was
on
working
that
on
too.
because
What blows me away is
they didn't have the pump running.
$80,000 in freaking treated posts
Uh-huh.
on this property.
Wow.
In a bundle like that, easy to pick up with 4 or 5 people,
Yeah.
you could make a fucking shitload of money. And that
Uh-huh.
is the dirt pile.
Oh,
There we go.
that's it? Yeah, okay.
So you can see just how far the burn pile is from the trailer and the shed.
Just looking at it, that is rather odd. The boots to behind
That's quite a ways for them to,
outside of campsite.
yeah. Well, I can see that somebody tossing them over there might not think that they'd get discovered. Because they're,
Why is it so far off that way?
yeah.
Yeah, the soil here is kind of soft. It's so I'm a little less unstable in some spots because of this. Spirit 12. Yeah, that's probably fairly accurate. As for the pump and trying to keep the crop alive, they kept trying to work on the pump and it was just proving to be too much of a nuisance, and so they let the crop die. Grain hop. Oh, they took the they took it back to Idaho, and it was processed by the police up there in Idaho. So I noticed in reviewing this that I'm sniffing quite a bit. I didn't notice it at the time, but I've got an allergy to sagebrush and one other desert plant. So I guess I should have had my
Our protein.
my inhaler that
infamous
day.
burn piles. Yeah, it's quite a ways away from Jim Brenner's trailer site.
Spirit 12, I hadn't heard that. Yeah, I'm a little short on breath. The summer in the desert isn't a good time for me because well, I have a sage allergy, and one year I was hoarse the entire month of July. Only ended when I went to California. Let's see. Florida hiker, we know that Chase was in Snowville at 7 a.m. and so he couldn't have been directly involved. That's Jim Brenner trying to deflect, and his
Here's the burn pile.
Oh, it's okay. You can see the rubbish out there that and as I understand it, the boots were around the far side over here.
So obviously the boots were not tossed from over by the grain shed or the Brenner's trailer.
You'll notice that the plants were growing out of the side of the dirt pile. Now, somebody said that they dug up the pile, but the plants were growing there then, so there couldn't have been it couldn't have been dug up after Dylan disappeared, but the plants were growing there that day, so they wouldn't have had time to spring up. So Dylan's not under the mound by the dirt pile. I mean, the dirt pile in the burn. Hi, America True Crime. I've got some ankle issues, which also make it a little less than steady on my feet on this this soft ground. So I don't know if a regular camera rather than a cell phone would have made any difference or not. I'm kind of suspecting it wouldn't. Oh, okay, Spirit 12. I hadn't heard that. I've heard that, and I'm not sure what to make of it. You know, they're saying
The soil is very soft. It gives way sometimes.
I think that a body falling off of a train between here and there is going to be more suspicious. I think he probably put evidence on the train, knowing that it would blow off, and so he disposed of some of that way. That's kind of my thoughts on the train. If I don't know. I think I wish I had heard about the train at the when I was out there, because I would have judged how far the train was from the grain shed. In the video that I did out at the farm, you can see the train going past in the not too far distance, but you can't really see it here. So it seems to be further away from the grain shed than it is over at Dylan's property. If you look between the grain shed and the mountains, the train tracks will be out there a few hundred yards.
Oops.
There wasn't really any reason for Dylan to be using the grain shed except as shelter, because the rain would start the stuff sprouting before he was ready to put it in the ground.
Where Jim Brenner's trailer that he's squatting in was. And it's been hauled away. I've been told that the FBI hauled something large away on a flatbed, and I'm guessing that it's the missing trailer.
Yeah, Kathleen Levy's mom. Yeah, I think that definitely what happened is here at the shed and not at the farm. And after the video's done, I'll talk about the Kevin Bibbins and Elaine.
They turned over the burn barrel here and went through the contents, obviously.
Yes, Holly anomaly. It is very sad.
It's just vast open space.
I didn't think to look under the tarps. They've been there for a long time, and I'm sure. Oh, let's see. Is that it? Okay, let me stop the screen so that. Okay. Oop. Okay. Kevin Bibbins' name came up when after we finished going around Lucin, or the locals seem to pronounce it Lucin. I was in the cowboy bar, and I was talking to a couple of local ladies, and the one lady, I asked her, so if Jim Brenner had help, who do you think did it? And he said Kevin Bibbins is the one who would have been helping him, and Chase and Robert would have been helping him, and so in that order, that's the local perspective on Jim Brenner. And so it was interesting that shortly after that Kevin Bibbins' name came up in the court papers. So I would like to find out more than him about him. There are two Kevin Bibbins, a father and son, and so I'm not sure now that I know that whether it's its father or the son. I'm assuming that it's the son. Kurt's pigs. I don't know where they are, and I hadn't heard mention of them. There's a few questions that I really have about Kurt, and because when I was on this trip, Kurt said something about the boots had been out there at the grain shed for a year or two, and the parents say that no, there wasn't any, no signs of them being out in the weather or anything, and so that kind of raised a real question mark in my mind. And now to find out that that Jim Brenner admitted to putting them back there by the burn pile just raised some huge question marks about why Kurt said that. I giving him the benefit of the doubt, I would say he was mistaken, but really makes you wonder about that. And let's see, Elaine Price, I'm not sure. We haven't really got a fix on her. There is an Elaine Price who is a realtor out of California, but that seems a little far removed for anything to do with anything going on around Montello or Lucin, because you got to be licensed in each state. And while this Elaine Price might be licensed in Nevada and or Utah, the names Elaine and Price are quite common, and so there's no reason to suppose that it's necessarily the same one. I've found some Elaine Prices living in Salt Lake as well, and there's no more reason to suppose that any of them are the relevant one than the one out in California. We just don't know enough about her to know. An Arizona native. I'll have to check in and see what Elaine Price's might have ties to Arizona, so I'll check into that. Okay, yeah, Elaine Price. I was thinking that the Elaine Price might be somebody who worked at the Walmart, and that whatever was purchased at the Walmart, that Elaine Price might be a witness to the purchase and discussion of whatever was purchased. It would be so nice to know exactly what it is that the law enforcement has, because it just kind of drives us nuts not knowing. And then there are some things which I've heard from behind the scenes, and it's not been made public yet, and I'm not sure if there is a reason why the information is being withheld. And so I don't want to put out some things which I've heard out there until such time as they've been disclosed through other channels, because it might be a sensitive point in the investigation. So yes, the Walmart purchase is very curious, because I think it was back in January, and so that's like a full 5 months or before Dylan disappeared. And so it's just very strange. Is it something that Dylan purchased that is an element of the crime, or is it something that Jim Brenner purchased? And so it's something that if we could just be a fly on the wall in the interrogation room, or in the room where the investigators are going over the case. But let me try giving Jess a call and see whether there's any sign of her. I kind of think she fell asleep on me.
I'm not asleep, I'm awake.
Oh, you're awake. Okay, are you going to join me? I sent you the link.
Okay. Are you live right now?
Yeah. Yeah,
Are you?
I just
Electric?
well, yes, I've just been discussing the video of the grain shed killing time, hoping that I'd be able to get you. So,
I am here.
okay.
I've been rallying with my team. Me and Tyler play this game together, so I've been rallying with my team, and they kind of needed me, so I was doing that. I just opened up my laptop. Hang on a
Okay.
second.
All right. Well, I sent you the link through text, so I'll let you come up, and I'll continue to talk to chat here. Okay. See you soon.
All right, I'll see you in a minute.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, let's go back a couple of minutes. Original Lone Ranger. Yes, possible ammo is one thing that that I was considering. There's a piece of evidence which I know that they have, and that's possibly something that would have been purchased at Walmart. I'm not really sure. Hi, Gizzy Sue. Yeah, Wi-Fi problems. I've had trouble with that a lot this week. Drone around the shop area. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Maybe they found something discarded in the shed. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was discarded in the shed. There were hundreds of beer cans. Let's see. Did Kurt say have made that statement personally with you or in the interview? Kurt said that when we were riding around in the truck going out and seeing the sights around Lucin, and I've just started uploading those to the computer. I've got a video which is ready to be released, showing where you leave the dirt road from north of Montello going out to let's see, that the first video stops around the Lucin Hill, but near the old cemetery, because when I was looking into the Susan Powell case years ago, I was going, where would I hide a body? And I'd been out to the Eureka Cemetery with a friend on Memorial Day, and it's an old ghost town for the most part. Well, there's a few people that live there still, but there's a lot of graves which have collapsed, and the old wood coffins, the wood is decayed and given way, and so you get these depressions down into the ground. Sometimes you can see right down to where the into where the void is, where the coffin. And so I wanted to check out the cemetery to make sure we didn't have anything like that. My friend is updating me on the football game. And so because of seeing the state of the Eureka Cemetery, I've always wanted to check out any ghost town cemeteries to see if we have any places where the soil looks like it's it's been turned over in the last, umpteen years, and no, there's nothing been overturned in decades in the Lucin cemetery. Yes, Gizzy, see, you go out in the Tacoma Road out there to Lucin, and Holly Anomaly, yes, the one out in Eureka is similar environment to Lucin, and you've got sagebrush growing in the cemetery, and that one, it had like old wood headstones that were so weathered that you couldn't read anything, and it looked like something out of a Stephen King book. So I'm going, yeah, if you were wanting to shoot a horror film with a cemetery, yeah, that would be the cemetery to use, in my opinion. So let's see. Let's look back a little further. Trench closest to the road that runs north from the shed. Candice hasn't mentioned what, if anything, they may have found in it, if she was aware of it. My guess that you wouldn't have taken things out as far as there, because he's pretty overweight at the time this went down. Now he seems to have been losing weight since then, because when we saw him in the court hearing that's 2 weeks ago come Monday, he wasn't looking quite as big. So he seems to be losing some weight, and he supposedly has bad ankles, which is why he is on disability, yet he is working on people's farms under the table for money. And so, you have to question just how much his ankles affect him. I'd say the weight is probably more of a factor. Okay, let's see. What you haven't all heard is that Elio rolled a large 30 by 10 diameter tank that is 440 feet north of the shop, down the hill 250 feet. They used a backhoe or excavator to dig up the brush and weeds out of the trench closest to the road that runs north of the shop. Okay, I see. I missed that one. Yeah, I saw that tank. It's huge, and I didn't realize that they had removed that tank. There's a tank just like it out at Dylan's farm, sitting above the ground. I do believe that Brenner is the person. He's got a hot head. He has conviction for an attempted murder back in 1985. He was known to be a hothead when he was working for a guy back east that I think Salty Pancakes interviewed, and he didn't like working for back then for a guy who was younger for him. And that was probably when he was 30 something instead of 50 something, and only a few years difference in age. And now we've got Dylan, who is young enough to be a son, giving orders, and so that really wouldn't have sat well with Jim Brenner. I don't know. Kurt may have said that, but he's applied. At least he's supposed to be so incapable of working because of his ankles that he shouldn't be getting disability. If he can work on a farm, he's he can hold down other jobs than are as demanding. So to me it sounds like Jim Brenner was just trying to scam the system. Let's see. We've got a football game and my friend is texting me play by play. The few that I talked to, they think that Jim Brenner did it. Robert Avilas and Chase helped cover it up. That or possibly Kevin Bibbins was the chief's helper in covering it up, along with Chase and Robert in that order. Yeah, Gizzy Sue. Jim Brenner doesn't need Social Security any longer. He's you can't get Social Security if you are incarcerated, so that would negate him. I need to pop away for a minute, so chat amongst yourself for just a sec. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Let's see. Yeah, Brenner can walk a half a mile. To me, he probably is capable of working. Well, Gizzy Sue, I'm from Salt Lake City. Oh yeah, I love the little kitten picture because I'm a sucker for kittens, and I found that one when I was Googling shabby chic, and so I just love it. Let's see, the University of Utah and the USC Trojans were playing, and it was a close game. The U was down. Let's see. It looks like we've got 12 seconds left in the game, and the U is down, but they've got the ball. They could have time for possibly 3 passes. So he's I don't know. She said she was pulling up her computer, so I'm not sure. She was doing something with the family, it sounds like. So I might start playing it. Hi, Modest Man. Yeah, I played my video of the grain shed. Was waiting to see if Jess would come on, and so I figured we'd talk about the grain shed while waiting. And she's supposed to be coming on, but so far she hasn't. let's see. Are you sure that Kurt was talking about Dylan's boot on the dirt pile? Yes, he definitely was, and that's on the video that I've got. I'm quite sure. So I haven't reviewed that. It took like 45 minutes to upload a 20-minute video the other day. So I've just finished uploading my second video, and I didn't necessarily intend it with everybody's going to want to watch with bated breath the footage from driving around, but I wanted to show just how open the countryside was in real time in getting from point A to point B. And so and I figured that some people were or like my friend Marcos Ortiz might want to use some of the footage for a few shots in some news pieces, or some content creators wanting to use a little snippet here and there. And so I kind of did that in mind, but do have some chat while we're driving, and so sometimes something interesting comes up during the conversation. So hi, Bob Farrell. Kevin Bibbins is a local who's been living around. I'm not sure if he's out towards Lucin or if he's in more towards Montello, and he's been living there for years. And so they probably would have run into each other around town, or possibly, passing on the roads, because it's wide out in the middle of nowhere, and it's not unusual for somebody to, if they're driving and pass each other, to stop, say hi. So let's see. She ran with wildfire. I hadn't heard that. I've heard of another instance of bones being found, and it was rather discouraging because the Box Elder County Sheriff came out when the person finding it had found, and they didn't even want to get out of their car to go take a look at it. I understand since then that the bones are gone. I don't know if an animal carried it off, or if it was law enforcement retrieving them. I was prepared to go out there with the person and collect the bones and take to the Natural History Museum, but there's no, it's not there now. It's Bibbins, B-I-B-B, I'm not sure, I-N or E-N, Kevin Bibbins. Okay, yeah, I was thinking it was more likely Lucin, but we do have two different Kevin Bibbins. We've got a father and son. One is in the 70s and one's in the 50s, so that could confuse the issue too. Let's see. Tom Evans, I wouldn't be the least surprised, because it seems that law enforcement really isn't interested in investigating that part of the county. The population is mostly over in Brigham City, which is along I-15, and up in Tremonton. And then you've got Snowville, which is along I-84. And after that, you really don't have much population. And so, like from Brigham City to over towards Park Valley or Lucin, that's going to take a couple of hours to drive. And so it is kind of the Wild West out there, because law enforcement, if they get a call about an emergency, somebody runs off, there's no way to catch them because it's going to take them a couple of hours to get there. So Holly Anomaly, it's been very disappointed. I think that they are hanging on to the case because the sheriff is up for re-election next month, and to turn over the case would be to admitting that they aren't up to the job, and that wouldn't look good for the re-election, and the competition would use that against him in the campaign. So I think that there's a lot of problems with it for the politics. Let's see, a train normally doesn't stop on the single track due to the north of the shop. There's a passing loop to the east, 233 miles as the crow flies. That's one that may be waiting. We're going to play the interview with Nate Eaton, which was originally the plan, but then Josh at the lab played an interview he did with Candice earlier tonight, and that was so much more detailed than the interview with Nate Eaton. And so I'm thinking that would probably be more useful at this point to play. And oh, hey, here's Jess. Hi, Jess.
Hey.
Oh, I like the little picture. I love those lit up trees.
Yeah, it's a little Halloween tree. I'm in the spirit.
Cool. I was just thinking of playing the interview with Candice that the lab did tonight instead of the Nate Eaton one, because it turned out to be so much more detailed. And so I'm thinking I'd pull that up. And I wish I didn't have so many tabs here because it's making it confusing. Let me just jettison a few tabs so that it'll make it easier for me to find which YouTube tab. Okay, this is the one that I want to play, so let's keep that. Let's see. Oops. Okay. Not yet either. Okay. I've got way too many tabs open. And let's see. Okay, this is... Okay. Okay, let's see. Here is the one where Josh was with the lab. Let's see. Let me pull up to where it looks like he starts playing. Okay, let's pull that up. Oh, did I lose Jess? Are you there?
I'm here. I
Okay.
didn't know because I never go live on my phone. I always go live on my laptop. So I didn't know that I could leave I thought I could leave the screen and go look at other things. But I guess if I leave the screen, it kicks me out. So I gotta stay here.
Let's see. So I'm going to play the interview from the lab because I found that so much more interesting and detailed than the let's see.
Yeah, you know what? I almost feel like while you're looking for that, the family is getting desperate, so to speak. So they're releasing more and more information. And I don't blame them whatsoever. I mean, you and I both know the evidence against Brenner.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty damning. I don't know what you've talked about already, but there's no doubt that this guy is involved. There's no doubt that this is a recovery mission, like I always say, and not a rescue mission. Still would love to know where Chase Venstra fits into this.
I still think that he is the cover-up person. In the Nate Eaton interview, she revealed that he was seen on camera in a place at
Pizza place?
7 a.m. So he couldn't have been in Lucin in at the time that Dylan disappeared. So
Well, it's just super telling that they arrested him very early on. He has not gotten out. It's telling that they are giving him a psych evaluation. Box Elder has finally said, this homicide investigation, pretty much. And, he was being investigated, back in June, for, in conjunction with a homicide investigation, even though Dylan was not put into that paperwork like he was Brenner. I still, we've talked about this behind the scenes, but I still have trouble connecting those two of why, if they both were involved. I mean, Brenner, without a doubt, was involved, but Venstra, I just, from what we know, they didn't like each other. They really didn't. They weren't friends. So I think it's like out of convenience.
yes,
Something to do with drugs.
yeah,
Something along those lines. I feel like Chase, because his story's ridiculous. And we have his story through Tracy's text messages.
yeah.
That is his explanation as to what happened. And what does he say? Oh, well, Tom Hardy got me high, obviously on meth. I woke up with a bag next to me with somebody's belongings. Sir, if you're on meth, I've never done meth, but I've seen people do meth. They don't go to sleep. They don't sleep. These people don't sleep. So I don't know where he was passing out at. I think that's a BS story. And I'll reveal this on this show because it's been several months at this point. But when I talked to the FBI agent, I said, I really can't make sense of this, of why would Chase Venstra's last conversation or last words to Dylan, as he said, were stay away from Kurt Wadsworth. That was his last conversation. I said that to the FBI agent, and he goes, I don't think that was the conversation at all. And, it was basically him saying to me, that's not what happened. That may be what he's saying, but that's not what the conversation was. So,
Okay, well, here I'm gonna see about starting the video, and for some reason, okay, I see what's going on. This interview with Candice was recorded a couple of days ago, and Josh played it 3 hours ago, and I asked him for permission to play it, and he said that would be fine. So let's go ahead and start it.
So I don't look like Wolverine.
Oh,
because sometimes I do look like Wolverine if I don't get a haircut.
Looks like he hasn't quite started the interview
between the beard
itself.
And the long hair, and it just gets out of control, and
it's
that's what happens to me.
There wasn't a clear indication video-wise when the interview started, but it's pretty close because he changed the graphic here. So
Yeah, I haven't seen this with Josh and her yet.
Let's see.
All right. So that should be good.
You want to
All right.
speed up
Well, here
the
we go.
playback speed?
Oh, okay. I think he's starting here. But
Let's just start it.
okay, here we go.
That if he's indicted for Dylan's murder, are you comfortable and confident that if he's indicted for Dylan's murder, that it will hold up in front of a jury?
That's a great question.
Oh, okay. This is the very start of the interview.
You know what? Can we answer that question, Lynette?
Okay, I'll stop it here.
Can we answer that question? Because
I will answer. I believe that they have sufficient evidence at this time to go ahead and try Jim Brenner and take him to trial and secure conviction. But
really,
I believe they won't do that at this point because of once you have charges filed, then the defendant has a right to a speedy trial, and that starts a clock ticking. Yep. And so if he doesn't waive it, and then they have to go to trial in a certain date. And right now there is stronger, there's still room for reasonable doubt because they haven't got a body. Can they get a conviction? Yes, they can. But if they allow for more time to develop the case, to see if they can find a body, to see if they can get anything out of him, then the case will be stronger. So, the case is weaker if they go at this point. He's in jail. He's not going anywhere. So there's no reason to start the clock running until they absolutely need to. And so, so I believe it's largely strategic. If you look at the Lori Vallow case, she has she did not waive her right to a speedy trial. They're supposed to have a trial set in January. It was supposed to technically start at the end of September, but they already had Chad set up for a trial in January, so they postponed her trial to January so they could try them together. And then they had some DNA evidence that they needed to process, and they were having trouble trying to get that processed and have experts go over it in time for the trial start in January. Now, Lori is back to the state mental hospital in Blackfoot, Idaho, because of competency issues again. And Chad has requested his a delay of to October 2023, and they're going to be addressing that in January when the trial was supposed to take place, whether or not.
Well, quite frankly, I mean, real quick with the Vallow case, Chad has thrown her under the bus. Whether she realizes that or not, he absolutely has. I mean, when you say, hey, I want my trial separate from my wife, and also we have information on Alex Cox, my wife's brother's death, that was ruled natural, but we have information on it. He's definitely thrown her under the bus. That's obvious to me, but as far as Brenner goes with Dylan's case, like I was saying to you the other night, finding out that within the, when the family, when Dylan's parents got out there to search for him initially, or come to find him, Brenner got emotional and he was crying. We talked about this the other night on the phone, and that to me is insanely significant because, number one, it shows that there's some type, if he was a sociopath, he would not show emotion for himself or anyone else. So I don't believe him to be that. I believe him to be of low intelligence, And I think he knows that what he did was a terrible thing to do. Because, the family's out there looking and he's crying, and they're wondering, why is he crying? Well, because there had to be some regret, some remorse there. Really shoddy police work with Box Elder. I think we went over that as well. They didn't do anything. He had a warrant out. They should have arrested him. Instead, they worked around him. But in that emotional state, if they had brought him in, he could have been broken. And I still believe that he can be. If he had that feeling at one time, he can have it again. And I'm telling you, when I seen him when we watched him in court, like I told you, Lynette, I haven't gone live and talked about that at all. But I took one look at James Brenner, and my very first thought was he didn't do this by himself. And my second thought was he can easily be broken. So I don't know who the FBI has sent in to interrogate him, but I'm sincerely hoping they send their best and break him, because he is breakable. I promise you.
We've got some interesting points which come up here in the interview with Josh. So
okay.
Let's listen to some more, and I'll start that up again here. Fly on the wall, not for murder, for attempted murder. And he had a...
Welcome to the lab, everybody. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and today I am with Candice Cooley, mother of missing young man Dylan Rounds. Dylan has been missing now for 3 or 4 months?
Almost 5.
Almost 5 months now. It feels like yesterday when I first heard about this case. The time is going awfully fast, and not a lot of progress in the case. Some progress, but not a lot. And today there's some new, never before released information that just came out the other day. Candice, I got to ask you this. Were you given the blessing by law enforcement to release this information?
So what people need to understand with the information we released, us as a family found all of it besides the phone, and we'll get into that, but we were still there when we found it. All the information that we decided to hold close, we knew from day number 1 something was wrong. Day number 2 and day number 3, we knew something went really bad out there. We decided as a family to hold it close because that's what you're supposed to do. I will say we were never once instructed by law enforcement not to stop it, and we're so frustrated now. We feel that the public needs to know what we're up against so that they fully understand why we are screaming so loudly against Box Elder.
Was there any hesitation on your part? I mean, obviously, since it just came out, but after you release these, and we'll go through them one by one, is there any regret? Was there any regret for putting this out?
No, I regret we didn't do it sooner. That's my regret. We should have done it sooner. We've disputed so many facts, hoping it would lead to something if we hold this close. But the fact of the matter is, all it is protecting Box Elder County and their downfalls and their negligence in Dylan's case. There's no other reason it shouldn't be released public, because it's not going to harm his case. It truly isn't. And so I get a lot of backlash after we release a lot of this that says, well, you're harming an ongoing investigation. But as we go through it, people will understand how we are not. We are pushing for Box Elder County to make some charges to get to the suspect to talk to him. So
this was sent to me, and I do follow the Find Dylan Rounds official Facebook page, but I'm not on Facebook that often. And somebody had emailed me this, and they said, you might want to take a look at this. So I opened it up, and I said, well, that's interesting. And then I reached out to you, and I said, well, it sounds like we got some stuff to talk about here, and I support the moves that you guys have to make. I don't know the relationship between you and Box Elder, other than it's contentious at best, and that they have refused to give up the case.
So I need to clarify a part of that for everybody. So as far as Box Elder is concerned, there are some amazing deputies that have helped us. Their search and rescue has been phenomenal and helped us. But a department is only as good as their leadership. And it has been their leadership that has failed, their sheriff, their detectives. I don't want to blare Box Elder to the point that everybody in that department is bad, because that is absolutely not the case. But when your leadership doesn't say, go out and find this young man, or when your leadership says, hey, don't arrest this felon, when your leadership is guiding you, that's all you can do. So I want to be very clear. There is some amazing people in Box Elder County Sheriff's Department that is to this day still helping us, but they can only do what leadership tells them to do.
Noted. Absolutely. I completely agree with. Very good.
Yes.
And that is good to know as well. So right here in front of me, I have the list, and you have the bullet points. And so we'll just go, there's about 10 or so here. Yeah. Okay. So let's just, let's dive into the first one, and I'll just read it off, and then we can talk about it. The very first piece of information that you guys released on this list says that Dylan's pistol was returned by an unknown person to his camp trailer on June 1st, and it was located in the bathroom on a previously cleaned countertop.
So hang on, let's just back it up and give everybody the full perspective. Day number 1, May 30th, Dylan's boots are found. Dylan's boots had not been out in that weather for more than hours. There's no dust, there's nothing. Okay. Day number 2, the 31st. We get the phone call that Dylan's being held hostage in Montello. We all drop ship and run. The next morning, June 1st, we all said the key fob came back. It was actually the gun first, and we've held that close. So June 1st, it was Dylan's pistol. So Dylan's pistol is sitting right on, so if you think of a little camper trailer, like a 30-footer, you walk in the bathroom and you come out of the bathroom, and right there's a kitchen or a bathroom sink. When we all went and searched that camper the first 2 days, his pistol case was there, but not his pistol. The bathroom was cleaned for Dylan's grandmother to use it by my ex-sister-in-law. She set her Clorox wipes or whatever she was using right on that sink. No pistol. Next day, there's the pistol. Not only is the pistol there, but the clip has been taken out of it, and they're laying side by side. And I will tell you one thing about my son. That pistol never left his pickup, and he damn sure never took the clip out.
Got it.
Ever.
So you don't know how it got back there, but it ended up back.
It's back.
Okay.
So Box Elder at this point is out there. They take pictures of where the pistol was found. The next day, June 2nd, Dylan's key fob to his Ford pickup is found in the exact same location on the sink, exactly where the pistol was the day before, after Box Elder County had taken pictures. Still, they think nothing of it. Like, it's no big deal. Your son's going to come back, and we're screaming. Like, no, this is, first of all, Dylan absolutely never locked his pickup, ever. And he...
Okay, I wanted to address a comment here. Says, Jane Doe says, she refers to Brenner as a squatter and then confirms that he has permission to be there as a caretaker. There, she's misspeaking, confusing definition with free camping. Address a couple of points on that. As I understand it, the person, the land belongs to the Chechios, who leased it to another party. Oops, looks like we lost Jess there. I can't remember the name of the people or the person to whom the Chechios were leasing the property to, but he allowed Dylan to come, or not Dylan, but Jim Brenner to stay out there on the property. But the thing is, in most states, and including Utah, a person who is renting a place does not have the right to go putting people on a property without the prior written permission of the rightful owner. And so he may have the permission of the tenant, but he doesn't have the permission of the rightful owner. So you know, he kind of is in a gray area between the two. He doesn't have a legal right in the eyes of the law to be out there, but he has certain rights as a squatter. If they wanted to get rid of him, they would have to evict him because he's been staying out there. But
I think it was really great that she said, you know, not all of them. You're only as great as your leadership. And that statement could not be more true. You see that in every aspect of life. No matter what job you do, I'll even bring up my mobile game that me and Tyler play. You know, we have a leader. It's a war game. We're only as good as our leader. If our leader doesn't guide the team correctly, we're ineffective. So I like that she pointed out that, listen, you know, that this whole police department is not bad, but the leadership is not good.
Yeah, you've got the issue that you've got the re-election of the sheriff. You know, the election is in what, 3 weeks now,
Oh,
and
interesting.
to turn over the case to another agency at this point would be used by the opposition to say, see, they're admitting that they aren't up to the job.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that they're going to, you know, I think it's unwise. Just like you were saying earlier, I think it's a little. I don't think they need to lay charges on Brenner right now.
No.
They really. It would be much better if they found Dylan. If they found his remains, because a no-body conviction absolutely can be done, but the chances are lower. And, you know, if they find his remains, number one, that helps the family have just a solid answer. But number two, it does help to convict the people responsible, even more, because there's an absolute death confirmation.
Yeah.
And potentially, you know, if there's something wrong with the skull or a hole somewhere. My theory is that I find it very interesting because we already know what happens in cases, Glory. They always put the victim on trial. So with James Brenner's blood on Dylan's boot, you already know what Brenner is going to say. He attacked me. It was self-defense. Well, sir, if it was self-defense, why did you not call the police station to say, hey, this kid attacked me and I shot him, or I did this to him and it was self-defense? Alex Cox did that and he got away with it, which is insane, but he did.
Well, there were some very shady things about the crime scene because there were bullets in 2 different locations, and so it did not match his story.
Do you think Brenner used a gun? I'm just curious as to your thoughts.
I'm really not sure. It depends on what happened. You know, if they kind of got into a struggle and maybe Dylan got hurt or something, and he goes and he gets a gun and holds it on Dylan, and you know, something happens, whether there or, you know, off to some other point, you know, who knows. If we don't know exactly what happens. We know that there was blood probably at the scene. We've got the boots with blood on it. The DNA has come back to Jim Brenner.
Which, what does that suggest to you? An absolute physical altercation. It does. If Brenner didn't actually touch Dylan, which I believe he did, but if he didn't, and he just say he shot Dylan, there's not going to be any Brenner blood on his boot. The fact that there is, and what have we been hearing about Dylan from the very beginning? That he's bold, that he would absolutely fight back. This is not a kid that's going, and I'm sorry, he is an adult male at his age. But to me, I'm 41. He's a kid to me. I have kids his age, literally. So he's a kid to me. But this is a kid that's going to fight back. This is a kid that's not going to put up with, oh, you want to come at me? Okay, well, I'm going to come back at you. But this is where I feel like, have you gone live? Did you go live after Brenner's hearing, where we finally got to see him on video?
I didn't.
You didn't. Okay. Can we talk about that just for a second? Because it's always, we always think that Brenner is this fat, short guy. He is. I think he looks fairly short to me, but he's definitely not fat.
Well,
he's not fat at all. And what he looked like to me, to be honest, number one, I'm going to be very real here. Both of his eyes went in different directions. So I don't know how he even saw anything, but either way, they did. Glasses on. He didn't have that big bushy beard. The picture that everyone shared of him where it looks like it's fall and he's got that John Deere hat on. No, Brenner does not look anything like that. I did screenshot what he looked like because I myself wanted to continue to look at him and just examine it. We can't post that online. It's illegal. But for me, he looked like a man that could definitely take Dylan on. But I feel like, because I'll say this. Did you notice, Glory, when he got up to walk and sit at the chair to sit in front of the judge, there was a limp. Did you notice the limp?
I didn't really. I was
just... There was definitely a limp there. I could tell. So, I watched him very intently. I've been waiting months to lay eyes upon this fella, and it kind of was everything I thought it would be, quite frankly.
Later in this interview, Candice does discuss Brenner, and she was in the virtual courtroom, I'm pretty sure, in the last hearing under the name C. Coolio.
Yeah, I saw her. Yeah. I saw her in there. Yep. I knew that was her. When I was watching it, I was like, yep, there's Candice watching. And looking at this man, can I see him hitting Dylan with something, doing something? Yes, absolutely I can. But Dylan, I feel like Dylan could have easily outran him. He was younger, probably most likely way lighter on his feet. So to me, Brenner had to pull a gun. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. It's the only thing that he could have done. I just don't know that he killed him there. When you think about, and I always go back to this, because we didn't know until Candice said this, but, we always thought that the first person he called was his grandmother. Well, that wasn't true. The first person he called was James Brenner. Then he called his grandmother. Then when his grandmother calls it back, he can't talk. Oh, I got to go. I got to get this grain. I don't know if something was even happening at that moment where he was like, I got to get off the phone. This thing is happening with Brenner or going on. And I sort of feel like it was. I do. I don't know if they were in some sort of argument. I don't know if Brenner wanted, money from him. Who knows what it was truly over. I feel like it was something insignificant, that this young man's life should not have ever been snuffed out, for whatever ridiculous reason that James Brenner comes up with. And it's going to piss me off if it goes to trial and I see them put Dylan on trial, which they will.
The thing that really angers me is that there was the outstanding warrant for his arrest, and that gets addressed later in this interview, but apparently it was a no bail warrant, and they released Brenner in violation of the judge's order of no bail, and so Brenner should not have been out, and if he had been in jail where he was supposed to be, Dylan would still be alive. And
Exactly.
so the we have potential for a huge lawsuit here from the parents, because they have lost their son because of the jail screwing up and releasing him when they had
just literally his proximity to Dylan. That enough. That's enough to, if I'm coming out and there's this 19-year-old man's boots behind somebody's trailer and next to a dirt mound, and he's missing and nobody in his family's heard from him, and he was known to have fights with James Brenner, you're my number one suspect at this moment. Just because you knew him, he was coming here, he talked to his grandmother, and so we're looking at you now. Now I'm going to run your name. Holy shit, you have a warrant. Holy shit, you've tried to kill people before. You're going to come with me. Why that wasn't done, I don't know. And I think you're absolutely right. That's lawsuit territory.
It makes no sense to me, because you get pulled over for not having a tail light or something. Your registration is expired, or something like that in traffic, and they take your driver's license back to the patrol car, and they run your driver's license, and they check to see if there are any wants or warrants or whatever else they might be able to tell about you, from police contact in the past. And they should have been doing that. You've got a scene where you've got a missing kid, you've got somebody who is on the scene here, and they obviously didn't run his name to check for wants and warrants or anything like that, because they should have taken him into custody at that point, and he's crying and emotional, and that should have been a red flag. Something's not right here.
Yeah,
And,
I really like that you use the word red flag, because just you and I, as non-law enforcement, we're responding to the scene. We don't know anything. We're just responding. We start talking to the parents. We see James Brenner being emotional. Their parents are saying he is. This is where Dylan was last going. He talked to his grandmother. I mean, it's just, to me, basic common sense that this guy here, I'm looking at you. I want to bring you into the station. Let's have a chat. I'll give you a donut. I'll give you a Pepsi, whatever you want. Let's have a chat, because you're right here. It's just, and with the evidence that they have, and I still don't know if it's been publicly released, one of the main things, so I'm not going to say it, but it's just damning. It is. This guy is breakable. Look at his face. He has that oval face. Like I was saying, that bushy beard that he has, that's no longer. He's got a lot of gruff, but it's still short to the skin.
Yeah.
And he's just, to me, Glory, and it's not about looks. This is not where I'm going, but sometimes when you look into a person, the eyes are the window to the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And his face, to me, just says breakable.
Yeah.
Breakable.
Yeah.
Get inside of his head. This guy is not, he's not Einstein. He's
Yeah.
not. You can take one look at him. That dude is not freaking Einstein, okay? So get up in that head, twist some screws that are loose, because I feel like there's quite a few, and get out where Dylan, what'd you do with Dylan? Where is he? Because he knows. He knows wherever Dylan was taken, either by him or another person, he knows.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are some issues which Candice brings up later in this interview. So I'd say let's get back to this interview. And oops, it looks like we lost Jess. She'll pop back on. Anyway, we'll start the video going again, because there's
never removed that pistol ever. When he would come to my house, and I know his dad would say the same thing Justin would, it was always in the driver's side door or in the center console with the clip in it, just to have it.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty standard for farm workers and being out in the middle of nowhere. Animals and God knows what else you need it for.
That same day, June 2nd, when the key fob comes back, is the same day that Brenner, the suspect, took it upon himself to pull Dylan's grain truck out of the shed. Mind you not, private property. He doesn't own it. He's a squatter. And proceeds to tell the sheriff that he is spring cleaning. Now, when the Diesel Brother interview comes out with Justin and I, we are sitting in the shed for that interview. There is garbage and Brenner's beer cans and stuff everywhere. Whatever Brenner cleaned out of that shed, and there has been evidence since found in the shed that we are not releasing because it's the FBI who found it, all he was doing was cleaning up, and he did it right under Box Elder County's nose. They allowed him to do it with a felony warrant out for his arrest.
Right. That's a major problem.
Huge.
Now on the second one where it's there was no DNA found in or on Dylan's pickup, the grain truck, the key fob, or the pistol.
And so everybody needs to also know that it was actually the Idaho State Police who did Dylan's pickup and Dylan's grain truck, because Box Elliott let us take it all home. The exact text message on my phone from Detective Blauer when I said, well, could we take the pickup home on Sunday, June 5th? He says, you folks do what you need to do. Okay.
What? So was Dylan's DNA found at all?
At that point, they didn't even have a profile for Dylan's DNA. Karen, Dylan's grandmother, she had water bottles, all kinds of stuff. His nose aspirin spray because he had bad allergies and was a farmer. I think it was 2 months before Box Elder actually gathered that. Box Elder County never took me or Justin's DNA or Colton's, our son, who would have been the best match. Elko County Sheriff's Department took Justin and I's, and then they had an FBI agent from the field office in Rexburg, Idaho, come down and take our son and Dylan's friend who touched the key fob. Other than that, Box Elder has never collected anything from us. It's all been outside agencies.
Gotcha. And the reason I ask is I was wondering if the thought was that everything was just cleaned up and no DNA would be found at all because of the cover up of the crime.
Right. Yeah. So they do have Dylan's DNA profile now, but at the point when the pickup was processed, no, they didn't. And we know Dylan's DNA is all over the pickup, but I want to know who else's was. The pickup being in 4-wheel drive, the seat being
Lori,
scooted
can
up.
you pause for a
And I know
minute?
there's so many mothers out there like me that are
Yeah,
sure.
I just want to address this person, Tom Evans. Hi, Tom. Tom says she makes Dylan sound like her best friend, and other people say he avoided her. Yes, I would say that they had a bit of a tumultuous relationship. I'm also going to tell you, as a mother that has had 2 19-year-old sons at this point, they get a little hairy. They get a little annoyed. They grow out of that. So, Lori, this is your show, but I'm just going to say this. Is the family perfect? No.
No.
Have they done everything right? No. But But is this the time to besmirch them, critique
No.
them, carry on? How would you feel if somebody in your family that you loved, that was your child, went missing? And everyone picked you the fuck apart. Or I'm sorry. Oop. If you
None
can,
of that
I'm so
Nelson
sorry,
stuff.
Glory. But if everyone picked you apart, how would you feel that
Oh,
they didn't do this to him?
no.
So you might not like it or this or that. Leave those comments in your brain.
Well,
That's my view.
neither parent, did the best job that they, could for Dylan. Most parents aren't perfect parents. When a baby is born, they don't suddenly become exalted, all-knowing beings who,
Neither do you.
yeah,
I made
so,
a ton of mistakes. We all do
yeah.
as parents, and we don't like to admit it.
But just
We want to
because,
think that we did the best thing for our children. But I'm going to be straight up. My kids have come and said, Mom, I didn't like that you did this. I didn't like that you acted like this, or I didn't like that you said this to me, or I didn't like that you. They have absolutely called me on
yeah.
things. Our
Well,
relationships have gone sour for short time beings. That does not mean for 2 seconds that if one of them went missing, my oldest child is in the service. He's 25, great kid. We are estranged. But if he went missing, oh, you'd see me all over. And you know what? The people ripping me the hell apart, you go ahead and you do that. But I would absolutely be there and search for my child. So, people coming at this family and coming at this woman, cut it out. You ain't gotta like how everybody is. That's not the point. The point is this boy's missing, and there's a shit ton of evidence against James Brenner. Period. There's things that I don't believe. Glory, what you and I know has not been released to the public yet, correct?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, there's damning evidence against this guy. Okay.
Sorry, I'm having trouble getting this, getting the video right. I'll add it back here in a minute.
Sorry,
The
Modest
fact,
Babe, if yelling stresses you out, true crime's probably not the place for you, but I appreciate you. Good night.
well, I just want to say, yeah, they didn't do the best job with him. Yes, he went off to live with the grandparents, but just because that is the case doesn't mean that now when Dylan is missing and presumed dead, that that it's better that they just steer clear of the case. No, this Dylan has no voice at this point, and so
Oh,
yeah,
that
yeah.
brings me to a question for you, Glory, with your paralegal background. So, one of the people that I work with behind the scenes on this case, strongly suggested that they get a criminal defense attorney to be a voice for Dylan because this is a criminal case. Okay, so this person strongly suggested this, but this person has a law enforcement background, a very long law enforcement background. Strongly suggested this. With your paralegal background, what would you suggest? A civil attorney or a criminal defense attorney for the family of Dylan Rounds?
Well, I would probably go with somebody who has experience in both, because then they can understand the criminal aspects of the case, but they are also knowledgeable about the civil things. And yeah, it looks like they've got a great case for a civil lawsuit against Box Elder County Jail for releasing Brenner in from the assault charge, and for mistakes in the investigation. Now, I'm not quite as upset about some of the aspects of the investigation as I am about them releasing him in the first place, because if he were still in jail, then there wouldn't be any police investigation. So,
Yeah, and Tom, just to answer you again, Tom's saying, I'm not saying Candice is bad, but she's gotten so whatever. She says we are to believe it. Candice has put Dylan on a pedestal, and I think he's a regular guy. Of course he was, but he's her son. If my son goes missing, and I'm going to the media and I'm going to YouTube and I'm like, help me. You
oh,
think I'm going to say, hey, my son did this and this and this? No, I'm going to say, listen, my son is a great kid. He is a great kid. That's not a lie.
yeah.
And in her
Well,
eyes, that probably is not a lie. As a
there's
mother, you see your child differently. And you see the best in them, even when you've seen the worst.
it's normal for a parent to want to see the best in their kid, especially in this kind of situation, because if they go on on live streams or on the news and say, yeah, my son was a bit messed up, and yeah, he did X, Y, and Z, which he oughtn't have been doing, but he was doing anyway.
I mean, what are you going
That
to do? Come on and say, hey, my son was a complete jackass and he's missing right now. I mean, if you guys want to look for him, like, go ahead. But he was just complete turd.
Yeah.
No, you are not
Okay.
going to say that. You're going to come on and say, hey, my son was a farmer. This is his passion. And it was his passion. That's
Let
not a
me
lie.
let me address Red Rock too. Says the jail doesn't let people go, judges do. Well, the judge ordered no bail in the case, and the jail released him anyway, and so that's on the jail, not the judge. And back to the parents. To If you give too much attention on negative characteristics of the missing person, then you tend to alienate the people who would be interested in following the
Yes,
case, and so
exactly.
it tends to die. So you tend to get a whitewashing of people. It's normal when somebody dies that you look at their better quality
I'm
rather than
gonna tell you
acknowledging.
of a guy. Sorry to interject, Glory.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you of a guy that my significant other knew in his teen years. In his mid-20s, he was shot and murdered. He was a junkie for a long time, and him and my significant other had parted ways as friends. But he still would randomly show up at our house. And the last thing I said to him 2 weeks before he was murdered was, hey, his name was Tyler as well. I said, hey, Tyler, I said, get better for your children. Get better. Last thing I said to him. 2 weeks later, he was doing a drug deal. He was shot in the back of the head. And guess what the cops said? They told his mother, who I still talk to this day, they told his mother, we know who did this. We just don't have the evidence. They had phone data. They had a weapon. They didn't care about him because he was labeled a junkie.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well,
Do I
that's
agree that Dylan was normal? Yes, I agree
yeah.
he was normal, Tom.
Well, that's precisely the thing about sex workers who are frequent victims of murders and serial killers, because they are the invisible victim. People don't want to look at that. They tend to not be sympathetic towards them. Even somebody who is a criminal has a right to live their life to the last possible moment. And so yeah, they may not be a sympathetic victim, but they still have the right to live their life to the last
Yeah, I
breath.
like the
So
person I was talking about. Was he a drug addict? Absolutely. Was he terrible in it? Yep. But did he deserve to be murdered, shot in the back of his head? No,
yeah,
because you don't know what his life would have become. So I understand saying, the family really built Dylan up. Well, sure. They told you about his passions, the best of him. But was he normal? Did he have flaws like the rest of us? Of course he did. You would
Yeah.
be
Well,
foolish to think otherwise. But it's no reason to lash out at the family or say, oh, because they're putting their child in the best light, I shouldn't believe them. That's ridiculous to say.
well, we know that okay, he didn't keep the trailer that clean. Okay, that doesn't excuse murder. You know, did I've heard reports that maybe he smoked pot from time to time. That still doesn't mean that
Well,
that's not
Dylan
completely
drank.
punishable for.
Dylan drank. And that's whether that's a secret at this point or not, I
No,
don't know.
it's
I,
not.
okay.
It's discussed before.
Okay.
Young
Has the
young
charge been
kids.
discussed or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Say that again.
The charge? No?
I'm not sure. I'm
Okay.
not sure which
No,
one you
never
mean.
mind.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he liked to drink. A lot of young men who are underage
Sure.
like to drink.
Sure.
It's not that big a deal.
It's not. And when you live out there where there's nothing, and the next town over is Montello, and you make friends with a guy that literally owns a bar. I mean, as a 19-year-old, wow, that's kind of a dream. I ain't got shit to do. I have no girlfriend. I'm going to go and have myself some drinks. I mean, he did. He drank. Does that make him a bad person? No, I drank at 19. Okay. I had drinks at 19. Ooh, big deal. Is the family going to say, you know what? Hey, my 19-year-old son was a drinker and blah, blah, blah. People will be like, screw that kid. But if you tell his passions, which were true,
Oh yeah.
Dylan, by all accounts, from what I've heard, was very good at farming. He saw things that people much older and more experienced saw, and they didn't see it. I do feel, and I was talking to about this the other day, Gloria, that there was a bit of jealousy. There was a bit of jealousy going on there. You have a 19-year-old kid. He's surrounded by much older men that did this sort of work for a long time. And sort of ran circles around them. But at 19, you're going to expect somebody to do that, especially if that's their passion. They're going to do that. But there's always, like, my significant other has, had his own business since his early 20s.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got quite a bit of video left to go, so let's get back to that because the video ran an hour and 24 minutes and we're at 18 minutes. So I'm going to start it again here.
Well, I just want to say, like, all my significant others, workers.
Somebody else has been driving it.
Oops. Let's
Like
see.
you
Did
know.
Dylan make a habit of letting other people drive his truck?
Absolutely not.
I mean, that's something that is cemented, like it's concrete.
It is concrete.
That he would not let
Absolutely not.
other people take or drive
Nope.
his truck.
No, absolutely not. So then as we move forward, okay, so gun comes back, key fob comes back, box elder is still basically out there mocking us, laughing at us, lying to us. I mean, we have the phone recordings, we have everything. So Friday, Weber County comes out with their search and rescue, and they were amazing. They came out with a chopper, they came out with dogs. Weber County came out in full force. So I asked one of the Weber County search and rescue guys, I said, at what point do we call the public search? Like, we're holding back thousands of people wanting to come find Dylan. And he said, now would be a good time because box elder's not going to come back out. So that Friday on Facebook and between all the friends and family, Saturday morning, we had over 300 people out there, campers pulling in people. We don't even know the family. Nobody in the family knew coming to find Dylan. That whole Saturday during the search, my mom and some of my cousins and some of our friends helped us, and we started figuring out the map system and having everybody dropping us pins and where they were at and everything. We had absolutely no help from box elder. We had one sheriff out there who I proceeded to chew his ever-loving But because he told me, I said, what is going on? And he said, well, I don't know. Your son's case will resume on a Zoom meeting Monday morning at 11 o'clock. A full week after the missing person, finding Dylan's boots, all the evidence we had, I get told our son's case will resume on a Zoom meeting.
Right. I mean, that's just terrible.
Yeah, I completely, I lost it. I truly lost it. And then apparently I lost it enough. He just left. We had no help. We were literally left in the desert to find our son by Box Elder County. Truly, and that is not an exaggeration. We get a lot of people asking, well, are you sure you're not the crazy, frantic parent? No, this is truly what happened.
So next on here is that Dylan's phone was found on, and we're fast forwarding to June 18th, in a pond, the Lucin pond by Box Elder Search and Rescue. Yep. So
and that's a natural spring.
Okay.
If I had to bet my life on it, I would say my son's wallet was in there also. But Dylan only ever kept like his driver's license and his debit card in there, and so that's that pond. It's a natural spring. It's not very deep, maybe like 4 feet, and then it flows in.
Just gonna stop here. The Lucin pond isn't that deep, in my opinion. I mean, it looked to me like it was maybe 18 inches deep. I think she's mistaken. It's not a natural spring. It's piped in from some distance away, that in the mountains, and was used for filling the steam trains back in the Transcontinental Railroad days, before the train stop was moved to Montello, pre-1930s. So there is a pipe which comes up out of the ground, and it feeds the pond, and to me it looked like maybe it was 18 inches deep when we were out there. It looks like you could get another foot or so of water in it, but it's not very deep. She describes it as, I think here in like 20 feet long by 12 feet. No, it's bigger than that, but it's not huge. So anyway, I will let it go and see if there's anything I need to add here.
In underground. So the natural spring of water has been pumped out, the system that they've developed for it, and then it flows back underground. The phone was heavy enough to settle. We've never found Dylan's wallet to this day. I can about guarantee you it was thrown in there also, but it was wide enough it got carried away by the current.
How big is this pond?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 10 by 12 feet.
So the person that is responsible for what happened to Dylan was discarding his belongings. Is that the thought?
Okay, one quick point. There is no outlet for this pond, so there is no current. There's no stream feeding it. There is no stream leading away from it, and so it couldn't have been carried away in the current. I do have video of that I need to do some editing. I started uploading Thursday because after the Nate Eaton interview, after we made the trip there in August, there was some real criticism because of Salty Pancakes doing some live streaming, and that offended a lot of people, and so it didn't seem like the right time to put it out there. But after the interview, it seemed like the time was right, so I'm going to be posting those over the next week here, and the pond needs a bit of editing. Oh, here, we'll wait till the clock stops. Okay, let's start it running.
Correct. I mean, it's not the thought. We've seen the proof of it.
Right. And how far away is that from the camper?
So hang on. We got to set the whole what we know now, what we released.
Sure.
So we know when Dylan called Grandma that morning, he was actually at the gate that goes onto the property that Brenner was squatting on. He called Brenner first, and I know the reason he called Brenner was to get him to come unlock the gate. When he couldn't get hold of Brenner, he called Grandma in a panic, like, I got to get my grain truck in, I got to get it in, and I'll just call you back. I guarantee you my son laid down the gate. Simple, like for all you hunters out there, if you're out antelope hunting or something, and you come up to this little stick gate, all you do is take the barbed wire off, even if it's padlocked or not, and just untwist the wire and lay the gate down and drive over it. Dylan's phone then pinged at the grain shed. The shed, everybody calls it a grain shed, so I use that, but there was no grain in the shed. That's just where he parked his grain truck. From there, it stayed right there, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. I don't know the exact timeline. And then Dylan's phone all day long went from his farm back to Brenner's place, back to his farm, and then back to Brenner's place. Then his phone left Brenner's place, went up along the railroad track, which nobody would know. Like, you got to be able to get into Brenner's gate to get to this property to get up to Lucin Pond on the backside. That's when his phone was dumped in the pond.
Was that on June 5th?
No, that was the day Dylan went missing. His phone was dumped in the pond on May 28th at 2:31 p.m.
That's when.
Okay, just to clarify, there are two gates, which I didn't understand before. There is one gate on to the north and one gate to the south. And the gate to the north goes closer to, it's the more direct route to Lucin Pond. And the gate to the south is more direct to Dylan's farm. When we went out there, we went through the north gate because that was the key that we had access to. And it takes a lot longer to drive around that way than to they say, you know, it would have been faster to walk to Dylan's farm from the shed than to drive it. And I've got that videoed, and I'll be putting that out soon. Now that the time seems to be right for doing that. So, okay, back to the video.
When it went
The
offline.
day Dylan went missing, the day everything happened was the day his phone was dumped on the pond. And so then people say,
Right. And then it wasn't, but it wasn't found until the 18th.
June 18th. And then people say, well, sometimes they say 3:51 and sometimes they say 2:51, but people got to realize you're right there against Pacific and Mountain Time.
Right. Correct.
So depending on which tower you pull it off of, depends on what time you're going to get. Brenner also placed himself at the pond to the people that interviewed him in the beginning before he lawyered up. He said, well, I was home all day Friday and I was home all day Saturday and I never seen Dylan. Well, how did you not see him? His phone was there. Dylan was there. And then I went to Dawn's to have dinner. I stopped at the pond before I went to have my dinner with Dawn, who was like another 2 miles away. So he's already placed himself at the pond pretty much at the exact same time Dylan's phone was thrown in it.
Right. Okay, so we're going to get into some James Brenner stuff here. I don't know how much you want to talk. I know we talked a little bit off the air, and trust me, don't divulge anything that you don't want to at this moment.
Oh, no, it's all public information. Anybody can find it.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll talk about this, and then we will dovetail into that, where James Brenner has been attempting to call members of your family.
Not attempting. He has spoken with Dylan's father, Justin, and he has spoken with Dylan's grandparents, Larry and Karen. There's no attempt. He has reached out. And I want to make it very clear, regardless of what anybody says, and if they say they've been talking to Brenner, it's a lie. Besides talking to Justin and Larry and Karen, those are the first outgoing phone calls he's ever made. How
long did he talk to Justin for? And by the way, Justin is the father of Dylan Rounds.
Yeah. You only get a 20-minute phone conversation.
And Justin talked to him for that 20 minutes?
I think they burnt pretty much close to all of it. So did Larry and Karen the first time.
How was that? How did that conversation go? Was it contentious?
It was pointing everything to Chase. Chase did it. Look at Chase. It was all Chase. That's all Brenner can go on is it was Chase. And we don't say cleared by anybody. Like, nobody's cleared until we find Dylan and find out who did it. But we know for a matter of fact from cameras, phone records, public cameras, not private ones, Chase was nowhere in the area when Dylan went missing.
And we'll
Absolutely not.
and we'll definitely get into that here in a bit as well. So now that he's calling, you know, Justin and other family members and talking to them, not just attempting. He was told not to, correct?
Yeah, by his attorney, he was pretty much told not to talk to anybody.
Sure, right.
And we can just talk about this now when we're on it. Brenner's public defender has dropped him for conflict of interest, and I believe that conflict of interest, about a month ago, Brenner wanted to start defending himself,
right?
And they tried to keep that from happening. So I believe the paperwork, and I'll send this to you, Josh, so you can put it up. But
Sure.
The paperwork says conflict of interest, and the public defender is no longer going to represent him.
Okay, I just want to stop here. I've got some serious questions on this because she's saying this happened about a month ago, and the public defender was present for the hearing in the state cases at the district court in Box Elder. So I'm not sure if she's referring to the state charges or the federal charges, because there's different attorneys on those cases. And quite frankly, I think it sounds like it's probably the federal case, not the state case. And I need to do some checking on that. So if he's trying to get rid of his representation to do it himself, this is a very significant point, because at that point, law enforcement can go directly to him and interview him, and hopefully we will get this all tied up. So I'm really hoping that that this is the case, and I'm going to need to do some checking come Monday on this. So I'll let it go again.
I'm about 100% positive that's because he decided to call the family.
Well, so that's the thing, is that, a public defender can't just drop off. They have to actually petition the court.
They did. I got the paper.
That's amazing. And a judge signed off on that. I mean, so there's substantial reasoning for this.
Yeah. And I think because he wanted to represent himself anyways over a month ago. He wanted to be his own representation. So if you fight against your public defender and you won't listen to what they say, and you say you want to represent yourself, then yeah, the public defender bows out. Yeah,
if they feel like their advice and counsel isn't being followed, they can petition the court, and it sounds like that. But Brenner does have every right to defend himself by law in court. It's a terrible idea, but people do it all the time. I mean, it's lawyers don't even represent themselves when they're on trial. They hire lawyers.
Well, my personal feeling, and you just take it as my personal feeling, Brenner wants to talk. Brenner wants to say what he did. Brenner wants to admit to what he did. I mean, he's a terrible person, but he's also a snap moment person. And after he has those snap moments, I truly believe there's still a little bit of a conscience, and he feels bad about what he did. Why else would you reach out to the family?
Well,
why else?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think that he's probably trying to run a narrative as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Let him run it. As long as we get Dylan, we're not concerned with Brenner. Like, justice will have its way with Brenner. We just want our son home. We want to bring our son home, and we want to give him everything he deserves. That is our focus. We can sit and we can be angry and we can be mad and we can hate and despise Brenner, but whatever happens to him, justice will come to him. We just want Dylan. That is our focus, is not putting Brenner away for life. That'll come in time. Give us our son back.
Right.
We need our son.
One step.
Okay. Yeah, there's yeah, she's completely focused on getting Dylan back, and I'm surprised that she's not concerned with if he gets out of jail someday. I think at this point, even if it was I don't know, man. If it's second degree murder at this point, I would say that's pretty much a life sentence for him. But he could get out in as short a time as say 5 years. But we'll see. Let's see. Sonny Peterson has the law question of the Mexican kid that was working for Larry Rounds. He went and stayed 3 days out at Dylan's farm, helping Dylan work at the farm. I was just curious. I'm not really sure. I've heard mention of him a few times, and I don't know if they've tracked him down. I did want to address Jim Brenner was a friend of the Larry Rounds and his wife up there in Idaho. He comes from Idaho, or at least he was living in Idaho, and known to the parents. And so Dylan came to know him, and they worked together up there on the grandparents' farm and in some other projects. At some other farms, I think, and so that's kind of how he came to be working for Dylan. So it's not completely strange that Brenner would be reaching out to the family, since he knew them for years. So okay, back to the video.
Step at a time. Now, this next one here is very interesting. James Brenner's DNA was found on Dylan's boots, found behind the dirt mound on the shed
Correct.
property.
Correct.
Can you
So-
expand on that for me?
Yep. So the story behind that is when the FBI got to talk to him before he lawyered up, and they said they were going to test the boots for DNA, and asked, "Is your DNA going to be on it?" And he said yes. And his reasoning for that is he found the boots by the shed, moved them not once but twice, moved them from the shed to his camper, and then decided to put them out by the dirt mound. So if you guys go back to that Diesel Brothers, it's the first time they came out flew, and it's all over Dylan's Facebook page. You'll clearly see that mound of dirt hasn't been disturbed in years. It's not even of relevance. But he had to walk probably, I don't know, anywhere between 200 and 300 yards to go put Dylan's boots out there. The reason we believe he did it, his reason is because, Dylan was done with him. Well, you're talking.
Okay. A couple of points on the boot. For those who've joined, we started out the stream by playing my video from out at the grain shed, so you might want to take a look at that, or I have it up separately on another place. And I walked out from the grain shed. It's quite some distance. So yes, and. Let's see, there was another point about the boots, but it just skipped my mind. Okay, back to the video.
Talking about a mound of garbage all around Brenner, all around him, in the shed, around his camper. It's ridiculous. But you take a pair of boots and walk them out and drop them where nothing else is there, where you don't take any other garbage. That does not make any sense. So we do know for a fact Brenner's the one who put boots there. And those boots had no dust, no remnants from being out in the rain that Saturday, and it poured. They looked like they hadn't been there for 4 or 5 hours max. We are pretty sure as a family, our thoughts are as soon as he knew we were coming, he went and discarded the boots behind the pile, thinking that we were all going to go the opposite direction to look for Dylan towards his farm and his camper and not go the other way.
And I'm here with Candice Cooley, mother of missing young man Dylan. For those that are just joining us, Dylan went missing from Lucin, Utah, his farm, close to 5 months ago now, and discussing never before released information. Now, the DNA on the boots, it seems to me as though in the very, I believe, not the next thing, but we'll get into the spring cleaning, that by all accounts, James Brenner was kind of a mess. He was just kind of a sloppy human, meaning, he was dirty. He was, didn't care about trash and stuff like that. But yet, he's concerned.
Okay. One quick point here. Florida hiker, about, Brenner may not know where Dylan is if he had help. Yes, it's possible that James Brenner said, I don't want to know. So it's possible that he himself doesn't know. So, okay, back. One point on the boots. When I was out there on this trip, Kurt Wadsworth said that the boots had been out there for a year or two. And I found that a rather strange thing to say. I don't know why he said that, because the parents are saying they hadn't been weathered. And so I just found it really odd that, we've now found out that Jim Brenner admitted to placing them there himself. And so, Kurt Wadsworth has kind of defended Jim Brenner in saying that, no, he wouldn't hurt Dylan. And I'm not sure if that is just kind of trying to, sticking his head in the ground and not trying to admit that somebody he knows would do this to somebody that he cared about, or if Kurt has some guilty knowledge and is trying to help cover up. I really don't know. I would like to think that it's the former, because people don't want to believe that somebody they know is capable of doing something bad to somebody else. So, I tend to think that's the case. So, anyway, back.
Enough to move somebody's boots that aren't his.
Yep.
So how did he? So obviously, he says that he moved them just because.
Just picked them up not once, twice, and then the third time took them out because he figured Dylan wasn't coming back for it.
And why would he figure that?
That's a really good question. I will tell you. From day number one, we showed up on the ground. The two people out there that were close by the whole time, Don and Jim, from the day one we showed up, they talked about Dylan in the past tense.
Right. Got you.
From day one, it was past tense.
Well, I mean, that's damning in itself. It's not.
It should have been, Josh. And people got to realize, you have a missing 19-year-old young man. You have his boots that have blood on it. You have a violent criminal with a felony warrant from the same county, and nothing was done. A felony active warrant for felony aggravated assault, and they still didn't arrest him.
Yeah, at the time of the disappearance, he shouldn't have even been out.
He shouldn't have even been out there. He should not have even been out there. He served time for attempted murder charges that he was prosecuted on.
Right.
He should not have even been out there to be around our son. And you think about it, they shook this man's hand. And on day number 2, they moved headquarters, as we call it, from searching for Dylan off of Brenner's, what they say his property, which was not his property, that was initials, JC's property, who Dylan had permission to be on, and we had full permission. We get chased off of private property because they say we're aggravating Brenner. We're aggravating and irritating him. He has no right to be there. He has a felony warrant,
right,
and we have to move because Box Elder County Sheriff's Department didn't want to aggravate him.
Oh, yeah. Well, bummer. That's just, that's once again, we're getting into perpetrators having more rights than the victims and the victims' families and
Yeah.
standard stuff. Honestly, it really is standard operating procedure these days. I'll tell you that. It's
so
wrong.
aggravating.
It's wrong in a major way. I mean, you got this violent felon who should be incarcerated, and they're worried about him being agitated. That should be the least of their worries. Really, if they knew where he was at the time, I mean, he's a high risk. He's a high risk warrant.
Let me tell you where this is going to go. Since we've called everything out, so Box Elder did send Brenner's warrant to the state of North Dakota because that's where his driver's license was from. The victim, who he beat up to the point he was in the hospital, was calling constantly saying, he's right here. Come get him. I'm scared of him. Box Elder wouldn't act on it. Box Elder County had their jail shut down until March of 2022 due to COVID. I believe it was March 10th they started executing warrants, unless it was a felony warrant. If it was a felony warrant, they were still executing those. The thing with Box Elder County is it is the armpit of the county, and they just choose not to go out there and do their job out there. They choose not to go out there.
This
in
is
April,
very true.
And I'll send you all the supporting documents from the court. In April of 2022, right before Dylan went missing, they actually redid his warrant and made it non-bailable. So his first warrant was go pick him up, take him to the nearest jail, whether it's Box Elder, Weber, Salt Lake, wherever he was at, and serve him with the summons on these felony charges.
Okay, let's just stop here real quick. Florida hiker about the hunting club and the community watch. I can't remember exactly what they said about the hunting club. Maybe Modest Man can help me with that. It seems to me that the hunting club was kind of one faction in the community, and the rest of the community kind of used the cowboy bar like a community center, in my opinion. I think the hunting club was kind of further out of town. The community watch, I think that was just kind of a loose thing that since the police wouldn't come out much and respond to things, that they kind of acted, on their own to do this kind of out of necessity. Like when I was out the first time in Montello, we were told that Chase Venstra was that some guys were trying to catch Chase Venstra because he had these people believed that he had an outstanding warrant, and they were trying to do a citizen's arrest, and that's how Chase Venstra lost his boots, because these five guys were trying to grab him, and eventually they found out that no, there weren't any outstanding warrants, but as I understand it, that's how Chase Venstra came to be without his boots out there in the middle of the desert. So whether that's true or not, good question. Let's see. Yeah, as I say, it's like 2 hours drive to get there from Brigham City, probably 20 minutes less maybe from Tremont, and those are the large population centers in Box Elder County. So it's quite a drive. Let's get going.
So then it took a full year. That never happened. After that full year, the judge redid the warrant, and it says right in their court documents, non-bailable. They arrested Brenner finally on June 11th. They took him in on the warrant. They let him out on his own recognizance because they weren't even smart enough to see that the judge had changed it. He was not supposed to get bail.
Right.
So from there, he's released. He's back on June 12th. We're infuriated as a family. We're like, why is he out? Then it was June 16th was the first warrant that they issued on Brenner's personal property. Knew there was black powder, pistols, ammunition, all that. So that's not a federal charge on gun charges. That's only a state charge. As far as a federal charge, you can have all the black powder you want. Still didn't arrest him. They finally went back on June 20th, and that's when he had hid the guns with Dawn and arrested him. And then it was the FBI who came in that got Dawn to fess up that he had the guns. So for the felony aggravated assault with new state gun charges, they still gave him a $5,000 bond. He got the bond, but the FBI nabbed him first. The feds got him before he could get out of Box Elder. Justin and I were never made aware that they even arrested him. We knew he got arrested. In our minds, he got arrested on the 30th, June 30th, from his property. But no, that was the FBI taking him from Box Elder County. Officer Iveson's report, he specifically states, do not give him bail. He's violent. He's going to retaliate against the victim. He's a threat to society and all those around him. The officer writes all of it. Bad dude. Box Elder still gives him bail.
You know, once again, it goes back to the having too many rights, and somebody that's a violent criminal. You said he served time for attempted murder.
Yeah, charged with it. It would have been murder, but the person lived.
I have this whole thing where I've always said that attempted murder is the same thing as murder.
It is. Yes.
Just because they didn't die, that to me the intent is still the same. So you can just charge them intent to murder should carry the same charge as actual murder. If you point a gun at somebody and shoot them through the stomach, and for some reason it just barely misses their large intestines or miss it barely by a centimeter, misses their spine, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, the intent is still the same.
Correct. Correct. And so what they do is they put these violent offenders back out on the street. I just covered a case, the Eliza Fletcher, woman from Tennessee, I believe. Yeah. Knoxville, I believe, maybe it was Memphis. She's out jogging 4 a.m. She gets abducted and killed. Well, the man has just been out of prison for 20 years for something similar. He's released back out onto the street. He didn't kill the person, but you know, he kidnapped them. And we're putting violent criminals back on the street at a very high rate and offering them $5,000 bond, I believe, is what, $500?
Yes. Yep.
Right. So even he could come up with that kind of scratch.
Yeah.
It's just it makes no sense. Now it sounds like they put a violent criminal out there around your son. Are there any plans for any culpability with that?
Absolutely. And so I want people to understand, wherever Justin and I decide to go with this, we are looking for awareness. We need families to be aware when you're put in the situation that we are, and not everybody has the capability that we do to drop ship and run. You know, some people got to choose between feeding the other kids they have at home and paying their house payment or finding their child. That's why, you know, we started the Dillon Legacy already. We've already got a pile of money for EquiSearch. Our thing is awareness. We are a very strong family. We have a very strong backing before this happened. And now that this happens, we've got backing from worldwide. And people need to realize, A, don't be scared to scream out against law enforcement. If they're not doing what they're supposed to do and you find yourself in a situation like us, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, call me. I will hop a plane anywhere and come help you. A lot of people don't understand these organizations, these people that can help you. So our deal, when I say yes, there's absolutely going to be something happen, but it's not about the monetary. It's about the awareness. And law enforcement needs to be held accountable just like we are as citizens. If you're not going to do your job, if you're not going to stand up and protect, as you swear on a Bible to do when you get sworn in, then don't be there. Go somewhere else. And people need, they need to realize that. There's more help. I'm in touch with hundreds of mothers across the country that are like, holy crap, this is the same thing we went through. And we just crumpled in a corner and we shouldn't have. And now they're starting to come out and we're starting to get EquiSearch to help them. And there's this whole new movement of people need to realize, like, there's all these do's and don'ts of when your child goes missing, your husband, your wife, your loved one. Let's call it loved one. And you need to realize that you can stand up and you can make it happen. It's exhausting, but don't give up. You can do it.
Well said. Who is Robert Aviles?
Okay, so Robert Aviles gave Chase Venstra a ride to his four-wheeler at the Lucin Pond on Monday. Robert Aviles is I don't know if he's violent. I don't know what he was in prison for. But before all this happened with Dylan, I think he was out of prison. I think he just got out like 4 or 5 months earlier. Robert was just like Chase. So people got to realize, Chase is in jail now.
Okay, just a quick thing on Robert Aviles. Seemed to be kind of like the Robin to Chase Venstra's Batman. He was the sidekick. And the first time I went out to Montello, we went all over the countryside and would see this is the place where Chase and Robert stole guns from this house, and this is where they broke in and did this, and this is where they hid such and such from this robbery. And so they seem to be very much partners in crime. So they're very much, the expression is thick as thieves, and it could be a more appropriate expression for for that relationship. So let's see. Let's get back to the interview, but just wanted to add that.
When Justin and I put the $5,000 reward on Chase just to find out where he was, because he was a person of interest to us as a family, not of law enforcement, just to us. We handed Fox River County and Davis County, we handed them Chase and Robert. So these two people had some questionable circumstances that us as a family wanted to clear up. They are both back in custody, have been in custody, but they came forward in Dylan's case by themselves to say, hey, we had nothing to do with this. We did not harm this kid. They're both back in jail because of the fact that they came out. They didn't have to do that. They did not.
So they violated probation.
Well, yeah, and multiple other things. But
Sure.
what got them thrown, both of them thrown back in jail, was them trying to help us saying we did not harm Dylan. This wasn't us. We'll go back to jail to prove to the fact we did not harm Dylan.
Did they have any information on who did?
Nope. And that's the thing. Every piece of evidence, factual evidence, not circumstantial, everything points back to that shed that morning Dylan put his goodie truck in it. Absolutely everything. There is not a piece of evidence, not a phone record, nothing that points in any other direction. And that's why we finally came out with it all, because Box Elder's got to charge them. I mean, they won't let go of the case, which is absolutely ridiculous to us, because they mocked us in that desert. They were terrible. All Box Elder County is trying to do is save face. As far as the higher up, like I said, don't put the deputies and the search and rescue into that, because they've been amazing. But as far as the higher up, they want to be the ones to get the conviction to say, hey, we did this. We were here the whole time. It's like Kate Palmer made that statement. It wouldn't make sense to relinquish lead because we have spent so much time on it. Well, Box Elder, what time have you spent? Because finally, I had a detective reach out to me last night, and only because our FBI agent's out of the country, and try to arrange stuff with me. And so when I question him on that, he says, well, Candice, either we're going to talk about flying the drone or I'm not going to talk to you. They're still ignorant to us.
Right.
And they wouldn't have talked to us if our communications guy was here. That's the first since August 29th, when Justin and I went and sat down and talked to him about relinquishing lead. That's the first time we've heard from any of them, besides when they try to blast us in the media saying that family causes friction. Well, yeah, there's friction. You're not doing your job. The time before that, the last time we physically spoke to any of them was June 16th, when we were out there when the search warrant was executed. So we went from June 16th to August 29th to yesterday, October, 10th, 11th? What is today?
Yesterday was the 12th.
Okay, so the 12th. So that's our communication with the lead agency.
Yeah,
Months
not
in
great.
between communication. Not acceptable.
Not great
Let it
communication
go.
at all.
Well, and not only that, but most of the evidence, I mean, the only thing that Box Elder came up with was finding the phone, and that's only because the technology from the FBI and pinging it and knowing where to look. Other than that, the gun, the key fob, the boots, all the interviews, handing them Robert Avilas, handing them Chase Venstra. We, as a family, have done it all. We've done it all. So they want to prosecute. You can't even prosecute. Like, you can't even give the facts of how the evidence was found because you didn't find it. So how are you going to prosecute it?
Well, and another, so right now, exactly what we're dealing with is circumstantial evidence. But by the way, one of the things that I stomp on all the time is circumstantial evidence under the law is just as good as physical evidence.
Right.
You need more circumstantial evidence, but it seems as though there is a lot of circumstantial evidence in this case. Now, one of those things being that Robert Avilas and Chase Venstra, their phone pings show they were nowhere near Dylan's farm or shed or the property on the 28th, the day that he did disappear. But on June 5th, James Brenner did some spring cleaning in the shed.
No, June 2nd. June 2nd.
Okay, so the thing that I have in front of me is that a miss? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got to get Jazz to correct that. It was June 2nd.
Because that's big, because kid goes missing the 28th, and there's
yeah, it was June 2nd.
He didn't wait long at all.
Mm-mm. And see, the thing with the spring cleaning, as I said, when the Diesel Brothers interview comes out, Jeff and I did that sitting inside that shed, and it is full of garbage and beer cans and all of Brenner stuff. He didn't spring clean anything. He was hiding evidence, and it doesn't take a detective to figure that out.
When you say, though, sorry to interrupt you, but when you say that Box Elder Sheriff's Office watched him remove 4 to 5 bags of garbage, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
So Brenner pulled out Dylan's green truck. He pulled out the 10-wheeler without any permission. He pulled it out of the shed. At this point, we're down the road half a mile. We can still see everything that's going on up there because we had to be removed from the property because we were irritating him. He pulled out the green truck. The one officer that was out there with us, he went up and asked him what he was doing, and he said, "Oh, nothing but a little light spring cleaning." I personally watched him, and you don't even need binoculars to see it. It's clean as day. take 4 garbage bags out of that shed, but it's still full of garbage. So what was he spring cleaning? What was he doing?
And the deputy attests to this.
You know, whether or not he would or he wouldn't doesn't matter. I'm sure he would under oath, but Detective Blower was there that day too. We all seen it. Everybody's seen it. Everybody who was there seen it.
Oh, you saw it as well.
I physically seen it, yes.
And nobody stopped him.
Nope.
And what were you saying while this was going on?
Honestly, Josh, like, we were still in a fog. We were still in a fine Dylan. I knew there was something wrong with it. The rest of my family who's seen it, my niece, my daughter's seen it. Like, we all knew something was wrong. But at this point, you know, we're day 4 into it, and we're desperately trying to find Dylan. We don't know, like, what are we supposed to be looking for? We weren't in the mode of, like, we knew it was wrong, but we were still so emotionally distraught. What do? If law enforcement is seeing this happen and they're saying it's okay, we were still kind of following lead. Like, well, if they don't think anything's wrong with it, maybe nothing's wrong with it. Like, you know, you get to the point, and Justin and I say it very well in the Nate Eaton interview, and we talk about it all the time. Like, we're to the point, even almost 5 months into this, like, we second guess ourselves. We've taken very good notes. Everything's documented on calendars. We have a whole timeline. And I still have to go back through and read that to remind myself that I am not crazy, that this is actually what happened. This actually happened. We just weren't looking back on it now. I'd have went to that shed and I wouldn't have cared what the deputy or the detective told me, because we had permission from the owner of the property to be on it. And I would have bulldozed over that guy and I would have went and seen what was in that shed. But following law enforcement's lead, never being in this position and not knowing, you don't know to do that.
What do you think was in those 4 to 5 trash bags?
Well, knowing the evidence that has come out of the shed now, and that's the one thing, just know that there was evidence in it. That's what he was cleaning up, was evidence. Had to have been. There would have been no other reason.
I mean, that's a lot of what are we talking? Big black trash bags?
White ones, like the ones you get from Costco. They're probably Jones garbage bags, because I always thought his at Costco.
Oh, okay. So like you would have in your kitchen.
Yeah, and like super light.
Gotcha.
Like you just toss them in the back of his pickup, like light, like nothing heavy, nothing. They, you know, just
so possibly his clothes. I'm not saying Dylan's clothes. I'm saying maybe, you know, Brenner's clothes to get rid of, you know, to take him to a burn barrel type situation.
Who knows? But I bet you there's over 500 beer cans on the floor of that shop or that shed from Jim. Garbage everywhere. But whatever those 4 were, and that's just the bags that I see. Then people started rolling in from that were personally help us search, and I got focused on where they'd been. Who knows how many there was? What I personally seen was 4.
And the rest of it was just a mess still.
Yes, absolute disaster.
Gotcha. So he didn't care about anything else besides very important stuff.
He definitely didn't care about the garbage.
Right.
There was specific stuff he was looking at to clean out of there.
Yeah. Okay. This is what prompted me to upload my video on the grain shed, because you know, there's nothing more better to convey that than walking around in the space. So that's why I chose to release this on Thursday night. So back to the interview.
You could say kind of like moving Dylan's boots out by the dirt pile.
Right. Yeah. In the pond I mean, look, There's a lot of circumstantial evidence going on here. I mean, like you said, you got a violent criminal in the area that did Dylan. Let me ask you this. Did Dylan have, or does Dylan have a temper?
No.
So what do you think was the catalyst here? Meaning, the reason I ask you that is, did he say, hey, you know, get your crap and get off my property or
No.
get out of my this or that.
No, and it wasn't Dylan's property yet. My honest opinion and what my gut tells me, especially knowing Brenner's history now, is so Brenner was always, it's like Justin said, Brenner was always a little jealous of Dylan. You know, you got this 19-year-old kid. You know, Brenner met him when he was 17, living his dream. Family's helping him. Like, Dylan's going to make his dream. Brenner was very protective of that property, even though it wasn't his. Brenner was always aggravated if Dylan would lay that gate down when he wasn't around because he kept it locked, even though it wasn't his property. He had this wild horse he wanted to keep in. My personal thought, and for all your listeners, this is just, I can see the scenario in my head. Our whole family can. Brenner was mad that morning. He was mad. Dylan laid the gate down yet again because he had full permission to have access to the property. I guarantee you there was a confrontation and everything happened right there. Everything. And I truly believe it was a snap moment. All of Brenner's history, all of his charges, when you look back through all the court documents, which I'll get all of them to you, Josh, every charge he's ever had has been a snap moment. Just a snap moment.
Right.
Nothing premeditated, nothing, just, he's a snap dude. He's just that kind of person. He's nobody, you know, he was in my backyard in his camper for months, 3 weeks when him and Dylan were taking down the pivot. He'd been at Justin's grandfather's house with Dylan. We both had interactions with him.
So you had a previous relationship with this guy?
No, not relationship.
Well, interactions. You'd known him.
Interactions.
Known him.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is not a family friend. People need to get that out of their head. Not a family friend, just an acquaintance. But there was nothing, as a mother, and a mother's intuition is better than anything. There was nothing as a mother in meeting the guy and taking Dylan groceries out there, taking him Easter dinner for the last 2 years since Brenner's been there, 3 years since Dylan was out there working. There was nothing that would make you say, "Ooh, son, you need to watch this guy," or "Don't be around him," or there was nothing.
But he was friends with Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, you got to realize there's 9 people who live in that valley.
Sure.
You're gonna be, I wouldn't call it friends. They didn't hang out. I mean, Brenner would help him work on the farm from time to time.
Right.
He'd help him, you know, he drove beat truck for him last year. I mean, as far as friends, no, I wouldn't say friends,
You
but
work
I mean,
for
there's
him.
just,
Yeah.
acquaintances, you know, like you got to take the socialization you can get out there.
Sure.
And that's the other thing that people don't realize. Dylan didn't live out there full time, not even close. The only time Dylan was out there is if this was his first crop. This year was going to be his first crop. He'd go out there and work for a couple weeks, work the ground, get ready to put his pivot in, and then he'd come to southern Idaho, or he'd go to eastern Idaho, or he'd go work for the Wine Cup, or he'd go out to Independence Valley. Like, Dylan was all over the place working. His camp trailer out there was a place for him to rest his head after long days of work on his farm. But I mean, if you were to add it up, you might be talking 3 weeks total out of the whole year he spent in Lucin.
Is that have you received criticism for people thinking that he lived out there like that full time?
Oh yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Or that we threw him out into the desert. Or people don't realize that ground has been developed. I mean, there's a reason why there are deep wells out there that you can already put a pivot in.
But he was also a grown pretty. I mean, at the time he went missing. I mean, he was a grown boy. He's 19 years old.
Well, and even at 19 years old, you know, a lot of people think, well, he's a kid. Well, yeah, he still is a kid, but as that kid, Dylan had already accomplished more than most grown men do at the age of 40.
And Dylan, by the way, had every right to live wherever he wanted because he was 19 years old.
Yeah, he was an adult. But Dylan's whole reason for being out there was $300 an acre ground with water rights.
Right.
Dylan never has ever wanted to work for somebody. He's taken a page out of his father's book, and he's taken a page out of my book, and neither one of us have ever worked for somebody. And Dylan, our youngest son Colton, and our daughter Brooklyn, all three of them the same way. Make your own schedule, do your own thing. So when Dylan was turned onto this ground back in 2018, at $300 an acre with water rights and deep wells, everything in southern Idaho and eastern Idaho is anywhere between $8,000 and $15,000 an acre. And Dylan has never wanted to work for anybody. So,
just a quick side note: my family used to own land between, south of Rosette, closer, over by more Park Valley. It's about maybe 28 miles from Lucin, and my dad bought it back in the early 70s for few $1,000s and sold it for about the same amount around 1997, and it had a well by that point. So the land is extremely cheap. Dylan's would have been more expensive, being that we had 40 acres and that was 640 acres, and so there's more that could be done with it. But yeah, the land is extremely cheap out there in the area, because it's old lake bottom from Lake Bonneville, so the soil is extremely alkaline. It needs a lot of work, so that's just a bit on the land around the area.
So he gets turned onto this ground. It's affordable. Grandpa helps buddy up with them. They buy this 640 acres. What they bought that 640 acres for, I don't think you could step out and buy 20 acres for in our area.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that's why he chose that area, and he was going to redevelop it into farmland. It's already all been farmland. I mean, there's 20 water hookups, 20 power hookups where that shed is. I believe it was Simplot who used to farm it. They finally pulled out because it's just, you're 20 miles, 10 miles off of pavement and 60 miles to anywhere. It's not realistic for most people, but to Dylan, it's perfect. It's never going to get sold into houses. Nobody's going to come develop it. The deep wells are there. The water rights are there. Go rip the ground back out and put your crop in, and that's exactly what he did.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, look, he had a life plan. He was wanting to do what he wanted to do. The criticism of that you guys have received in this is completely unfair, and it's reaching, and it's worse than reaching. It's none of that is important. He was a 19-year-old boy doing what he needed to do. He was working.
And I have said it in a lot of interviews. COVID hit perfect for Dylan. Here he is in high school, 16 years old. Boom, COVID hit. School canceled. March of 2020. Dylan's like, I don't have to go to school. Like, you can't even make me because there's not even school.
Right.
I'm going to go farm. And he just has taken it and ran with it. And there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I remember, as soon as I graduated high school, I was out of my parents' house.
Sure.
All these, I don't know why these people think, like, we don't need to coddle our kids until they're 27.
Right.
Like, they don't need to live in the basement. Like, they're capable adults. I mean, you look back through history and you see the change of time. I mean, back in the 30s and 40s, women were having kids at 14, and that was perfectly acceptable. It's been our society that has changed and decided what an adult is. I will tell you, when Dylan was 14, he was an adult.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I've never met Dylan, and but from everything that I know about this story, that the people that are criticizing you, their children aren't like Dylan, and They had never probably dealt with a kid like Dylan who had drive and wanted to get out on his own and work. I mean, he's a real cowboy. Really, he really is.
Oh, I still sit here and we're in Beet Harvest here in southern Idaho. Dylan has this freight lighter truck. We always call him White Lightning. It's White Lightning. I still catch myself. He rented a trailer last year on his own, a triaxle trailer, and he hauled beef heck until January of last year. And like we had the sound like, oh, here comes White Lightning, skipping a couple gears, but he's still getting her done, and just smile and laugh as here comes my 19-year-old son, out working most of the people out here hauling beef day in and day out. And it's been hard because this year there's no White Lightning.
Right.
But that's how he was. I mean, you're talking about a kid that could drive an 18-wheeler better than anybody who goes to truck driving school. Like, that's what he did. That's what he knew. That's what he was raised with. My parents own their own businesses. His grandparents on the other side, their own businesses. His aunts, his uncles, the whole family, that's what he grew up with, and that's what he was going to do.
Right. So this one I'm going to need your help on a little bit more. This is one of the last newly released pieces of information where it says evidence was present that James Brenner walked his horse from the shed property to the railroad tracks during the time period Dylan went missing, 5/28 to 5/29. The dates, those are dates, not times. And then his horse went one direction and he went the other. What is significant about that?
So that was on day number 2. We found that my sister, my brother-in-law. So day number 1, search and rescue found horse tracks out by the fence. And then they talked to Brenner and he said, yeah, that was my horse and I was walking them. So then my sister, brother-in-law, they arrived late that night. The next morning we go back out. The tracks from that horse and Brenner, and he admitted it was him, actually when you followed him the whole way, went straight to the train tracks. That train stops for maintenance. It's a UP train, and I have been in touch with Union Pacific, and they do have a bulletin out on their internal police force. That horse spun in some circles. Brenner scuffled around his boot track, and then Brenner took off walking straight back to his camper. So I would say like 400 yards. The horse was clearly led there with him. He went one way back to his camper, and the horse took off towards Lucin Pond and the other way. It clearly wasn't being led anymore. And, as much as I've been out there with my husband and how many times we've visited, and we know all about the horse. It's a wild horse that he tamed. That was the whole point of the gate. That whole area is fenced.
Yep.
Brenner doesn't walk that horse.
Gotcha.
So I did, and the FBI reached out to Union Pacific also, and they have an internal bulletin if anything's found on a car, but it makes no sense. And why would you be out walking your horse that you never walked and doing it in the mud?
I mean, once again, more circumstantial evidence to a case. But what my question here is, with the information present and the information that you haven't released, and I'm assuming that is more damning than this as well.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable and confident that if he's indicted for Dylan's murder, that it will hold up in front of a jury?
I don't know, Josh. A jury is here's the problem right now. So like, if you've seen the pictures of Brenner released in the beginning, and you see the pictures of him now, he is deteriorating so much. So if you get an unbiased jury and they look at this man right now, to look at him, if you were going to convict him of what happened, circumstantial, all the other evidence, he looks half dead. I think that's what he will play if he has a good attorney, which we now know his public defender has moved to not be defending him, as a jury, I don't know if I have confidence in that.
Right.
There's such a biased opinion on that. When you look at a person, you're like, well, you know, you couldn't even pick up a gallon of milk now, how much he's deteriorated, and huge alcoholic. Brenner's a huge alcoholic, and that's been part of his deterioration. I don't know.
So
and truly, I don't have faith in it.
Just let's let the clock finish here. Just a quick point on Jim Brenner. She's talking about how he's deteriorating. Yes, he seems to have lost weight since he appeared in court the first time, and when he appeared on video in court 2 weeks ago come Monday. Jess was quite shocked because she understood him to be quite a bit heavier, and yeah, he was heavier. He does seem to be losing weight, probably due to stress and so forth. She's correct about that.
This is my opinion, but after covering many cases, it sounds like without a body, if in fact Dylan is deceased, and let's always hold on to that miracle that he's not,
Right?
Because we have no clear-cut evidence other than proof of life, and there doesn't seem to be any at this moment. The one thing that is going to be hard to do, and like you said, you look at this man, he doesn't look like he can lift a gallon of milk at the time. Cause of death. It doesn't take much to shoot somebody. And the man, and personally, and I'm kind of stepping out over the interview here, but I mean, the man was indicted on gun charges, felony gun charges, because he's not supposed to have them. So I would assume that is, the route that he would go when he committing these crimes that he does.
Right. And so one thing I'm being indicted on the charges, this is number 3.
Right.
This is the first time.
And, you get into this whole legal jargon of, is his record going to be admitted to the jury, which it very well should be, because it goes directly to his behavior. Right. And, sometimes and that's the look, this is going to be a battle.
So here's my feelings and my opinion, and I can pretty much speak for the family because we all feel the same way. There is no doubt in our minds that Brenner did this whatsoever. Not an ounce of doubt. Right now, truly, as a family, we don't care what happens to Brenner. Justice will come. What we need is to bring Dylan home. We all read through the same scenario in our head. We all talk. I mean, even Dylan's siblings, all of us, we all have no doubt in our head what happened out there. Whether or not the courts can prove it is one thing. What we need is Brenner to be charged. And even at that, the attorney can still decline interviews, and, he's got his rights, unfortunately. But now that we know his public defender has dropped him, we know that he's been trying to represent himself. He has been calling the family. He wants to talk. And we'll let justice take its course, however that happens. What we want is for him to tell us what he did with Dylan.
So say the district attorney gets, this goes to the DA, and you're getting ready they're getting ready to charge him with something. And by all accounts, they very well could charge him with something at any time with this information that you have, but it goes to the strength of the case. Would you guys be willing to negotiate a lesser charge, such as like manslaughter or something, if he was to tell you the location of
Yes.
of Dylan?
Yes. We want Dylan. That is our focus. We will never have any peace unless we have Dylan. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if Box Elder does their job and charges them with their charges, and whatever happens with the federal charges, Brenner's never going to walk out of jail alive. And it would probably be better for him if he didn't.
Sure.
But yes, we don't even care. We don't even care if he's ever charged with it, if he's ever prosecuted. We want Dylan. That's all we want. The rest will fall into place afterwards. We just want Dylan.
And I can understand it and appreciate you saying that. But I'll tell you that when you do find Dylan, then you will want that justice.
Yes. Yes. So, and I agree with you 100%. And that's a very good point you put out to me. Yes.
Because I just know what that's like. You know, like I said, I've dealt with the court systems for years. So, it's one step at a time. Just tell me what you did, where he is, and then after that, you know, if you guys, and some of it is up to you, but not all of it. If he's shown any grace at all.
Well, and even at this point, we don't need the what you did. Where?
Just tell us.
Where did you put Dylan?
Yeah.
Because when he tells us where he put Dylan, we will know what he did.
Of course.
We will know. So you know, it's kind of like, you know, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
So do you think that with these gun charges that are looming and is, I don't know, he must be going to trial for it.
I'm very leery of the federal gun charges. And the prosecutor.
Just a quick thing. Somebody, let's see, who was fly on the wall. It says it's probably why he hasn't said anything. He's waiting for a deal. We know from the Chase Venstra hearing 2 weeks ago. I guess it was 2 weeks ago Monday that was Chase Venstra. Then it was a few days later that was the James Brenner hearing. But we know from the prosecutor when he was asked by the judge in that case about the federal charges, and the prosecutor says that Chase Venstra is trying to negotiate a deal. And they're also doing a psych evaluation on him to see if he is competent. Now, that could be to rule that, you know, so that a defense couldn't say that he's incompetent because of drug and so forth. So it might not be so much to prove that he's, you know, incompetent, so therefore he's not guilty, you know, didn't have the mental capacity, but to forestall any attempts by the defense to discredit him as a witness. I do believe that there seems to be negotiations trying to take care of this if he is truly trying to fire his lawyers and so forth. So it could be that we might get some answers in the not too far distant future. I'm certainly hoping so. We've got a little bit more to go on the interview here, so here we go.
Prosecuting it is he's amazing and he's trying really hard. But what people got to realize, the only reason he's on federal gun charges is A, our FBI agent is absolutely amazing. B, they got Don to admit Brenner gave him the 22. But when you're talking about going into federal court, they never arrested Brenner with that 22. He never had possession of it when they arrested him. So it turns into a he said, she said game.
All right.
That gun has no serial numbers on it, and that's all public information.
They're filed off?
Yes, filed off. And Brenner never had possession of that gun when he was arrested.
And so you don't think these charges are going to stick?
I truly don't believe so. You know, I've been digging into a lot of it and looking at a lot of it, but it goes back to that old saying: possession is 9/10 of the law, and Brenner never had possession of it when he was arrested.
Yeah, there's also a saying, it's
Never.
not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Right.
So
if,
that's a big
if
deal.
he was
Yeah.
not arrested with that 22, and that's all it was a 22, it's played out. But now that we know his public defender has dropped him, like if he's gonna represent himself, if he represents himself, it's gonna stick.
Oh, he'll get the electric chair. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just a
it's
stupid
gonna
idea.
stick.
It'll be
Yeah.
the firing
But
squad
here's
or
my thing,
needle.
Josh, and it's like I told you
Yeah, let
before
him.
we came onto this interview. He's been wanting to represent himself for almost 2 months now,
That's
and they've been
amazing.
trying to stop it from happening. And my thoughts is, let him represent himself, because the second he represents himself, he can be interviewed.
Well, they can try to stop him from doing it, but they can't stop him.
No, well, and obviously, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what just happened.
Yeah, that's probably why his attorney said, look, if he's not going to take my advice, he doesn't want me here. He wants to represent himself. He's doing things I'm telling him not to. Judge, I want out of here. And the judge says, all right, look, judges do not want to deal with this kind of, because it turns into a mockery. Brenner's not a lawyer, and the judge desperately, whoever's going to be over that, does not want to deal with that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's his right. It is his constitutional right to represent himself at his own trial. It's just a really stupid idea, but criminals tend to make really stupid decisions most of the time. That's why he's been in and out of prison his entire life, you know?
Yeah.
But my question is this: is there a chance that they give some leverage with his open case right now in Dylan's case? Is that something that's been talked about and worked on? Like, hey, like we'll drop these charges.
No.
Nothing.
No. No.
Do you know why?
No. And there's so many questions we have against Fox Elder and like I know why the feds aren't dropping the case. They truly have our back. The longer they can keep Brenner in, the better. As soon as if those charges are dropped and he hits Fox Elder, he's out. He's already made bonds with Fox Elder. He's out. There and you know, you go back into all of this. You know, people think about this conspiracy and what does Brenner have on Fox Elder? No, none of that. There's no conspiracy theory. There's no they're trying to cover for Brenner or Brenner has something on him. The only thing Fox Elder's trying to cover is their negligence and incompetence in the beginning. And they keep trying to shut us down at every avenue, and it's not going to happen. As far as the feds, they truly want to keep Brenner in. They truly want to sink Brenner. It turns into this. Everybody wants to read more into it than it is, but it's really not there.
Right. It's just it's a legal matter.
It's a legal matter, and it's a frustrating legal matter because, as you said, right now, Brenner has more rights than we do or Dylan does.
It's 100% correct. Dylan has no rights and no voice other than you.
Yeah.
And that is infuriating to me because obviously there is substantial evidence that puts this man at near and at the scene, and then after the fact, there's a motive. There is obviously he was cleaning up, which is something that he obviously doesn't do. So, but once again, it always goes back to it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Yep.
So,
yep.
In the long and short of it here, do you expect him to be charged with these crimes soon?
I hope so. That's why Justin and I decided to release everything, and as I said, we're at a brick wall. We find Dylan and get evidence, or Brenner talks. There's no other direction to go. So we are continuously pushing for both of them. We're the ones out there arranging the search for Dylan, not Fox Elder. We're not going to let this go. We're going to find our son and bring him home.
I believe that. I always have, and
We're not going to let it go.
And God bless you. Obviously we want Dylan to come home safe and sound. We know the statistics. You and I have had that conversation.
Yeah.
But that's still the hope. But justice and some peace of mind. That's what you guys deserve.
And yeah, I hate to cut you short, but I'm getting a call from one of the law enforcement.
Not a problem at all. Thank you, Candice.
You're welcome.
We'll talk soon. Okay.
Yep. I'll call you back and inform you on what's going on
Okay.
now.
No problem. Thank
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, that's the end of the interview. So I just found when I was listening to this one live earlier tonight that it was so much more compelling, so much more information than the Nate Eaton one. They had time constraints and so forth. And as I say, Josh, he has the unique perspective as the child of a murder victim by being the child of a killer as well. So he really is unique. GRH. I'm for Sharia law. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that the death penalty has its place in the most extreme cases, and you almost never see it implemented these days. There are so many times where I think somebody deserved the death penalty, but they took a plea deal to avoid possible execution. So anyway. Does anybody have any questions before bring it to an end? Because we've been going for a while here now. I do plan to post the rest of the videos from my trip to out to Lucin. I'll probably have the first one. It's mostly just kind of seeing the vastness, the openness of the terrain, and not necessarily the most compelling video, but sometimes there's some interesting things that are said during the ride. So it's kind of it's interesting whether you want to watch it all or just pieces. It was kind of, I did it with in mind of people using it as a resource if they're doing some talking and just want something showing in the background, or maybe a snippet on the news or something. So anyway, there are some definite interesting points in there, and I'll probably do shorter videos making those a bit more accessible. So anyway, I will bid you all good night, and thank you very much for tuning in. I was afraid nobody would show up. So thank you, everybody. Good night.